It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.
Well, after a chaotic start to the 2024 Logitech G Pro Invitational A Series on the streets of Sebring that saw a complete shuffle of the results from what we might have expected and saw some of the main title protagonists starting the season on 0 points, we head to Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit for round number 2 tonight. Good evening, everybody. It's Lockie Mansell with you as the pit reporter this evening, and joining me in the commentary booth, it's a very good evening to Scott Rankin and Steve Sandman Clark. Guys, I think we're still recovering from everything that we saw at Sebring, and I know that in the weeks between then and now, Scott, you in particular have put together some terrific analysis pieces, but I think the bottom line is that everybody is still trying to get their head around exactly what we saw on that fateful evening.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover, and we're actually going to kick this show off by having a look into some of the incidents and some of the post-race stuff that went on, but there was so much drama. And one of the biggest things is that actually it's been viewed quite a number of times as the response to it from a community. Every single person out there that's watching along tonight has got an opinion on exactly what happened at round number 1. Sandman, do you remember a time in sim racing history where everyone has an opinion on V8 supercars?
It's definitely up there, isn't it? It doesn't spring to mind, but this one, I mean, boy oh boy, Sebring for us has really been a game changer for the series. Every time we leave there's something to talk about, and this incident it definitely go down the record books as far as very controversial. You know, some people say they got it right, some people say they got it wrong, but boy oh boy, you don't want to be in the officials' shoes for that sort of incident. But it was an absolute game changer, just unbelievable.
Yeah. And we're going to actually take you through it and give you our thoughts, because we discussed this one at length after the production coverage. This is actually the incident that sort of kicks all things off here. It's a race for the win. There's 4 laps left to run as it currently stands out on track. And Madison Sound's going to have a go, Sandman.
Yeah, look, you expect him to too. It's so close on exit here. It's so hard to call as far as, you know, obviously there was no intent. It was good, hard racing, and unfortunately it's just the way it narrowed up, and then it got very ugly as we saw the rest of the incidents unfold.
And that Logitech car. Go ahead, Lockie.
Yeah, sorry. So I was just going to say, this was the controversial bit. So we're riding on board here with Richard Hampstead. So he was the driver who ultimately crossed the finish line in first position, but copped a post-race penalty. This onboard shot will tell us a lot of the story as to why he copped that post-race penalty. So the car immediately ahead of him, that was Jake Burton. You would have seen him get on the brakes. Richard Hampstead. Now, this is looking from the next car behind. What you're seeing then is only a few very brief blinks of the brake lights on Richard Hampstead's cars. So what the driving standards observer Thomas Randall and the rest of the officials in race control ultimately determined is that Richard Hampstead did not make enough of an effort to avoid rear-ending the car immediately in front of him, and that's why he was handed that penalty.
And I can tell you from the stewards, I was actually chatting to one of the stewards actually earlier today, and there was a little bit of a discussion. Oh, I got a penalty. Where did the other penalties go? There was actually not just that one penalty handed down. There was a couple of penalties handed down. And from a sim racing point of view, what we look for are brake lights. Brake lights show you a lot. They show you there's an intent to avoid an incident here. This is what the points looked like. It was Robbie Gibbs. We celebrated Richard Hampstead on the night, but ultimately that penalty cost him the race win from Sebring, and it's Robbie Gibbs who steps up and take that one. But have a look at the ERT cars. 3 of them inside the top 4. They celebrated like you would not believe. Tom Freer was home second, Hayden Veld third. Matthew Bowler got home in fourth. Then we get the first of the Lobs esports cars, and these next 2 positions are probably where we're going to be looking for championship protagonists in the early part of this season now. Dylan Rudd, followed by Rick Kuznetsov and his new move to Vermilion Motorsports. That is going to be debated. But then you've got your veterans, Sean McNamara, Kurt Stenberg, Michael Taliancic. There's so many drivers in this top 10. At the end of round 1, they looked around them and they went, hold on, we got a championship we can win here, Sandman.
Absolutely. Just look at that graphic right there. The drivers without any points. Like, talk about a shake-up for the championship. You know, we thought we had a pretty good idea of how possibly the season was looking to unfold, and then you check out that list of drivers with no points. It's almost like a reset of the season for these guys. So everyone feels like they've got a tiny little bit of a head start by some notable names there. You look at, we talk about how strong Jared Philsell is. He was an inaugural champion and very strong throughout that night. Always a strong competitor, but to see him without any points, it's like the guys have got a little bit of a head start, so it's going to be interesting for round 2 here at Phillip Island.
I think for me as well, one of the key results to come out of the opening round at Sebring was Madison Down. We saw that he tried that audacious move on James Scott for the race win, which ultimately triggered off that chain reaction and the massive pile-up that we saw. Madison Down was penalised for that incident, but critically, he still got classified as a finisher. And yes, it might have been down in 31st position, but there's still some points up for grabs for finishing in position number 31. 68 points to be precise. Those 68 points could make all of the difference at the end of the season.
Yeah, and track map here. It's Phillip Island that we're journeying to tonight. 250 kilometers, and it's going to be on one of our most famous Australian racetracks. Right down here, just under 2 hours to the southeast of Melbourne, Sandman. It's been, when we talk about drama, we talk about, what tracks can put on. This is a track that I think a lot of drivers have done close to 1 million laps over their tenure on iRacing in.
Absolutely. It's a fan favourite, especially for us. I guess it was our first homegrown racetrack, and it's such a picturesque racetrack, and it's a favourite with a lot of people and a favourite around the world, especially with obviously the MotoGP guys that come here each and every year. It's just such a an impressive racetrack, a fast racetrack, and when you get a lap around here, it's really makes you feel like you've earned it, because it's such a good, rewarding racetrack.
Completely different to where we've just come from in Sebring, which was a straight circuit, obviously, with some quite tight and technical sections. Phillip Island, it's all about high speed, constant radius corners. And I think probably one of the other observations that I would make, and this is going to be important as we get into qualifying in a few moments' time, off tracks are not going to be anywhere near as much of a factor here tonight as what they were in Sebring, because there aren't really any sealed runoff areas or sections of the circuit where you can run wide and gain an advantage. Pretty much everywhere around the track, if you drop wheels off, you're dropping them off into the grass or into the gravel.
Yep, so in terms of the race strategy, though, we're about to sort of get in and start talking a little bit of fuel numbers. There's a lot of different things that you can sort of do. 2 compulsory pit stops is the key factor. And don't forget, we've got qualifying to come before we actually really start to really think about what's going on. But just take some notes here. Stick these numbers in the back of your mind. Nearly 254 kilometers, just a touch shy of 254 kilometers. 2 pit stops must be done. What they're looking for down at race control to say that you've completed your compulsory pit stop, the car must come up on the jacks. You can do that with 1 litre of fuel. That's good enough, but you can't just stop in your bay. You have to do some sort of a service within the car. Compulsory pit stop window opens at the end of lap 2. Can't come in at the end of lap number 1, and you can only complete 1 of your compulsory pit stops per safety car. So if we get 3 safety cars throughout the duration, you can take 2 of them under safety car should they fall nicely within a window. Pretty bog standard as we've seen thus far in terms of things, Sandman, but this is the critical numbers. Your pit lane transit time, 25 seconds along a fast straight out in the track, and that pit lane entry, I've seen over the years, there is always somebody that gets pit lane entry wrong here.
Absolutely, and it's so easy to go into the entry so hot and try to make up as much ground as you can, but you can be punished for it big time. Lockie, what's the talk within the teams as far as tyre wear? Are they worried about Phillip Island being a high tyre wear racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in real life, we know that Phillip Island's a very high tyre degradation circuit because of those long, loaded corners and the energy that goes through the tyres. From the people that I've chatted to pre-event, it's basically about making sure that you bring the tyres in nice and gently at the start of the race and after each of your pit stops, because if you go too hard too early and you overheat the tyres, the degradation will be quite high, but if you're patient and you bring them in gently, they will actually tend to last a bit longer without giving you too much degradation in terms of severe drop-off. So I think that's one of the things that we'll have to watch, is drivers who are aggressive early on might suffer towards the end of the stint. Drivers who are a bit more conservative early, maybe it might cost them a little bit of time early on, but they'll be in a stronger position come the end of the stint.
This has been a fun one to keep track of as the season starts to progress. Fuel graphs. This is what you can do. Now, you can come in as early as the end of lap 2. We just talked about in terms of your compulsory pit stop, fill the car back up to 111 litres. That means you can have another stop in and around the earliest you can run to get home, 24. That's end of lap number 24 to get home there, Sam. But a lot of room to sort of tinker with those numbers. 57 laps, which means in terms of a breakdown, that's about 22, 23. Sort of that's what we're looking at to split it nice and evenly.
Yeah, and I love the strategy with the fuel. The only thing that makes me nervous as a driver is coming in so early and then having to have those tyres, taking it easy and looking after them. For me as a driver, I want fresh tyres as close to the end as I can, depending on how it obviously works out. You never know how these races turn out, but you can have the ideal strategy in place. And I guess safety cars, we're not really thinking safety cars for Phillip Island. It's probably not huge on the safety car radar.
No, but there is still the possibility of safety cars. Never something that you can discount in this series. I mean, I thought we were going to go safety car free at Sebring, and we obviously got that late safety car, which changed absolutely everything. But the fuel range here at Phillip Island is around the 32 lap mark. Maybe you could get a couple of extra laps if you were to fuel save, but that may... and get to the end of the races around lap number 25. Lap number 25 to get both of your compulsory stops out of the way. But if what we saw at Sebring is any indication, it's pretty much the pattern of the series last year as well, certainly for the leading contenders. You tend to run quite long in the first stint out towards the end of that fuel window, and then do 2 shorter stints for the run home to ensure that you don't get caught up in traffic by doing an early pit stop. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see similar strategies playing out this evening.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to go. I forgot to take notes. I did actually make note of what the lap times were over the last couple of years in terms of qualifications. So on a little bit of a warmer track back in 2022, 1:28.114 was the pole time. So you can tell that was quite a hot track, and the race format that year, 60 laps, was 3 laps longer than what we had. Last year, they changed that format. They did some tinkering around with it, and the pole time, 26.910, 1.2 seconds faster. We've got a track that's somewhere in the middle in terms of track temperature here tonight. So I would say we're probably about a 27.1, 27.2. You can crack that 26, you're probably good enough for pole there. Sam, and thoughts?
Yeah, I was just looking at the practice times. Yeah, so they're mid 27s, high 27 sort of thing there. So yeah, I think, like you said, if they can crack that time in quali, that's obviously what they'll all be aiming for. As we see the big rush out of pit lane, everyone trying to jostle for a little bit of position and some clear racetrack.
Finally, boys, just before we jump into qualifications, if you had to pick a driver at this point, right now, to say they're going to put it in pole position, who are you going, Sam? And start with you.
Oh, goodness. Mate, I don't know. It's so hard to pick. The field spread for us is so good. Like, it's just so hard. I mean, you can pick anyone just out of that practice. We see the top 10 where it's got Myers, Burton, Scott Anderson, Down, Phil Cell. Mate, take your pick. Throw a bit of chewing gum at the TV and see which one sticks for me.
All right, I'm going to get off the fence and actually put my money where my mouth is. And rather than naming 5 or 6 drivers, I will try and narrow it down to 1. I'm going to tip James Scott for the pole position here. He has proven himself to be very proficient at qualifying, and after what happened at Sebring, where he was on target for the race win before that lane incident, he will be fired up and determined to come out fighting.
I'm being a little bit harsh on some of the Vermilion boys and probably the Vermilion team over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to back them in here. Gilliam was very, very quick in the practice session because Netsov can match him or better him. So I'm going to go Andrew Gilliam. I think he's got a chance for a pole position here tonight. I'd like to see it. So there you go, 3 wide. Come on, Sam, just pick one. Just throw a number. Any number. Just pick one.
Who's number 17? Let's just go with that. Somebody's probably not even on the grid, so there you go.
White. There you go.
There you go.
Another
There we go.
Righto. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to nut up or shut up. That's qualifications. You've got to stick it on the pole position to give yourself a reasonable shot of a race win here at Phillip Island. The first drivers are turning their first qualifying laps of the night. Jake Burton's going to be the car at the head of the queue, and it is kick-starting qualifying from Phillip Island. Here we go, boys. It's time to put the hammer down. And comfortable out at the front end of the field is Jake Burton to kick that run off. Myers will be in behind him, so it's 2 TTR guys. And then Matt Bowler is the third car in the queue as we go to the onboard shot coming through the southern loop. You got to get the power down, but you can't run that car too wide. He's looking to plant the car. And you get on the power down here through Stoner Corner, and then it's on the brakes down to Jack Miller Corner. Used to be named Honda. Think of the big accident here all the way back in 2013 that saw James Courtney's car in a million pieces and everyone struggling to understand how they walked away. Then it's Siberia, back to the left hands and struggled to get the power down. Low grip corner, then it's onto the power as hard as you did. Carry it through the hay shed, boys. From here, it's bravery all the way to Lukey Height, to the left-hander. It'll take you to the crest of the hill. The braking zone, the run down to MG. This is where you can get an overtake done to set up your race. Right now, it's about making sure you turn that car back to the right. You hug the right-hand side of the road. You open up the second to last corner, and you can start to build some of that speed, carry the speed. And if you get this last corner wrong, you are so vulnerable down at turn number 1. And the lap speed just diminishes. Looked a rather tame lap there on board if we're watching and talking a little bit about Sandman. But for those early laps, it's about getting the banker in, and that looks a reasonable banker from Jake Burton.
Absolutely, and doing a massive favour for his TTR teammates behind him as he's punching a hole and bringing them along with him. So they all did a pretty good job there. Like you said, the banker is so crucial around here, and this is what everyone's been able to do. Doesn't look like anyone's made too many mistakes on this opening lap, so really good from the field just to get that one down with 16 minutes to go in quali.
I'll tell you what, Lockie Mansell's going to be absolutely wrapped up because he's put his finger on the driver. It's at pole position as it currently stands. Lockie, confident with your pick? Was James Scott sitting atop the pile?
Still so long to go in this session, though, so I'm not going to cash out just yet. Or maybe I will cash out now, I should say. But Madison down only 0.01 of a second slower than James Scott. Jared Fuelcell third, back to Andrew Gilliam. Luke Rosella up in position 5, Marcello Rivera, Jake Maloney, Ethan Brigalt, Josh Anderson and Dylan Rudd rounding out the top 10. Now, keep in mind that the drivers who are well positioned in the championship, people like Robert Gibbs, they're probably going to be a little bit further down the order in this session. One of the interesting stats to come out of Sebring was for the first time in the history of the Logitech G Pro Invitational A Series, none of the drivers that finished on the podium started in the top 10 on the grid.
Oh, that's a juicy one. I like that.
Ooh, you have done some digging. I'm going to have to confer notes with you after this one.
That's your rush back to pit lane, isn't it? They've all done their banker. Now they're back in for a fresh set of Dunlops to go again.
We're going to get a few runs here tonight as well with that 30-second or so quicker lap time than we had last time at Sebring. That's equivalent to basically an extra run in terms of qualifying timing. Thinking now about 250 kilometers that's going to come out the other side about this. It is a big, big week for some of these guys in terms of what their commitments are looking like in terms of the simulator. We talk about fatigue management, but good thing Logitech's early in the week because that means you can put all of your best goods on up front early in the week, boys. Good run for a number of drivers. Phil Sell and James Scott for the Lobs Esports crew up at the pointy end of things. Greg Galt will be okay with that lap, but he won't be over the moon with that one. How about the lap from Marcelo Rivera, though? He's actually the best place of the ERT cars, Sandman.
Yeah, good job. That's what we were saying before with Lockie. You're so keen to sort of put your money on and be happy with where you are at the moment, but you know that everyone's out there to improve on that second time round. But yeah, a great lap to get that banker down and can really just take the opportunity now with that fresh set of rubber to try and improve on it.
Just having a little bit of a look up and down the field. Driver that failed to set really a competitive lap time was actually Jacob O'Reilly. Did not get his lap time in, and Griffin Gardner as well. Remember, Griffin Gardner led when that safety car was called for the huge incident back at Sebring, Lockie, and then the internet dropped out. I mean, he'd want to get a good lap in here.
He was the unluckiest driver of that event, on target, so we thought, for what should have been a fairly easy race victory, especially considering the subsequent post-race penalty that came the way of Richard Hampstead. And you mentioned there Jacob O'Reilly. Interesting stat with him is that after Sebring, he is the highest placed rookie in the standings, sitting 12th in the points. Look at this, look at the traffic jam, and what this is about is all of the drivers trying to get themselves into the position to be able to get the advantage of the slipstream from the car in front. It is, look at that, he's absolutely peak hour through Siberia at the moment. That's a little bit, to be honest, that's actually a bit ridiculous. You'd be better off trying to get yourself a bit of cleared track and trying to achieve a lap time that way. Jay, you'd hate to be on a hot lap at the moment, wouldn't you? And coming across the track pretty much completely blocked between Hayshed and Lukey Heights.
I think that's why it's not an issue at the moment. Everyone's on the same sequence, getting a lap in. So thankfully we haven't got anyone trying to rip around and get their lap, because, like you said, can you imagine coming across that? But look at teammates, look at this TTR train that they've got going. So, and that's what a lot of these drivers are doing. They're trying to hustle for position, find their dancing partner and get on with the lap as they come around to start their second hot lap with about 11 minutes 50 to go in the session.
Yeah, everyone's managed to survive. Everyone's gotten through. There's been a little bit of squabbling and jostling for position, but unlike Sydney traffic, Melbourne traffic, boys, it's all managed to sort itself out. Do you guys have traffic up in Queensland, Sam? I don't know. It's not that many people up there, is it?
What is that word? Queensland, it's beautiful one day, perfect the next.
And in the meantime, locking myself down towards the southern part of the country, get all this cold winter blast as the snowy winds start to blow across. Well, as they start lap number 2, has that weather changed? Has it started to cool off? Are things getting a little bit better for our driver base? Keep your eyes on Phil Sell, who's towards the front end of this line. It's going to be, again, like you said, it's find the right dancing partner, but not everyone. You've got to find someone who's on your pace. If they have a little bottle, if they get offline, and there is one car that went right down there at Honda and ejected himself very, very quickly out of that train. So he's managed to sidestep the field. In the meantime, who's got pace as they get through this lap?
Yeah, I love what Phil's has done. He's left him enough of a gap where he can sort of catch up to the train there and use that advantage for the draft, but not enough where he's tripping over himself. But talking about clear air, it's Madison down. So he's going to be the first of this lot to come around for the second hot lap. So see if he can improve at the moment. He's only a fraction off pole position at the moment. He thinks probably at this stage that he doesn't really need the toe. He's probably happy with it, but I think the other drivers will probably benefit a little bit just having that little toe in front of him. But we'll see as he crosses the line. Does he improve? No.
He's close, very, very close. It was only 200ths of a second in that second lap, so very, very close in terms of things. Who's now going to put their statement down on the table? Josh Anderson manages to come through, grabs a good lap. He beats Jared Philsell, but Philsell responds to the top of the timing charts. Qualifying starts to get fiery. And Gilliam slips down to 5th. Greg Gold, I believe, improved and jumped his spot up. Burton was on a reasonably good lap. Rosella, Rivera, Jake Maloney slots back down to 10. And qualifying continues towards El Nami. I believe El Nami is the first of the Synergy cars that currently stands at the moment. So Synergy obviously know it's going to be Tom Frere, I believe, who's actually got the best outlook at the moment for the Synergy Sim racing cars. And they are a long, long way down. Brady Myers has gone back to the pit lane. So he was one of the cars that boarded his lap, which means he's now going to catch all the traffic.
Yeah, I guess he's got the option where he'll catch the traffic if he's on a hot lap now, or whether he'll sort of wait. I guess you don't want to give up too much time waiting for your teammates to cycle round again. But yeah, how good was that lap from Phil? So I commented a little bit that I think he had pretty good position. He had enough of a gap in front of him where he could utilise that draft. He did everything right and put the lap together, and so far he holds on to P1.
There's actually a number of cars, by the way, boys, that are back in pit lane. Lockie, I'll cross to you here in a second. Have you got any updates for us on any of those cars at the moment? It looks like they might be waiting. That might have been the right call.
Yeah, and just having a look as well at some of the big names that have yet to record lap times. Griffin Gardner yet to punch out a representative lap time, currently sitting in position number 43, so he needs to get a time on the board. And like you said there as well, for Brady Myers, only 13th at the moment, and on a slightly out-of-sequence strategy, awkwardly catching the traffic on his most recent attempt at a flying lap. So a few drivers that need to bank some time to bolt themselves in order, and we've only got just over 8 minutes left in the session, so time and opportunities running out here. Thomas Freeman's not done a lap yet either, so that's the other big name that's yet to actually bank any sort of lap time.
I know it was Jacob O'Reilly, I believe we were talking about at the end of the first round of runs, has managed to put a time together. Slots in at 31st, currently setting a nearly identical lap time down to, it comes down to the 10,000th of a second to split them with Wayne Burke. So they both set 1:27.946s. This is Jordan Ross who we're looking at the moment. And one of the Synergy Sim Racing cars will be looking to try and improve his time. And this time, I believe he's just finished a lap. No, he's on an out lap at the moment. So he's going to be out and away from everyone. No draft assistance for him, but that's more downforce on the front end, Sandman.
Yeah, we saw that lap from Madison down just before. You know, he didn't have anyone to draft off and still managed to put down a decent time. So where he's finding himself at the moment, a little bit further down, obviously, where he'd like. I think for him, it's just good to have that little bit of clear track and he can just concentrate on hitting his marks. And I think he'll improve from where he's sitting at the moment. So I don't think he needs to be too worried. Obviously, the draft is really nice, but we've seen drivers get the job done without it.
Well, there's probably going to be time enough for this lap and maybe one more, but they'll have to push it a little bit on that out lap. Can't quite be as slow as they've been trickling around. Might have time for one more run. For Jordan Ross, he is going to kickstart the third round of flying laps for the field, and it's an important one for him. Currently 27.8 has him sitting down in 30th place. Can he improve? Can he get himself inside the top 20? Because at the moment, that Synergy Sim Racing outfit is not looking strong from the island. Is there anyone at the moment, Lockie, that you're just sort of looking up and down the field and just going, he's a little bit out of sequence in terms of his pace? Maybe Richard Hampstead might be one. Kurt Stenberg's a little bit further back, particularly where their TCR teammates are at the front.
Kurt Stenberg, qualifying for him never seems to be a strength, though. He always puts his best foot forward in the races. Brenton Hobson down in 28th position. Probably a bit further back than we'd expect him to be. That's the other name that jumps out at me.
Sandman, anyone that you're looking to at this point in time? There's a number of drivers towards the bottom end of the field to be going on a bit better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 42, he's back in 41st position. So, yeah, I'm a bit surprised to see that time sort of where he's at, sort of 9/10 off the pace, but still plenty of time at the moment. What have we got? Just over 5 minutes to get the job done, so hopefully he can move from there.
And towards the tail end of the time. So this will be an important lap for both Thomas Freeman and Griffin Gardner as they're looking to try and set their best lap times thus far. Jordan Ross comes to the line. Won't be an improvement for him. He's only a 10th of a second off, though, so definitely got pace. Somebody kicking up a little bit of dust as they come shooting out the last corner. Got the eyes set on Jake Maloney at the moment. Sits 10th. Can he improve? He can improve, but that's only going to pop him up to 9th spot, so it is one spot further forward. Now we're going to look back towards the drivers who have our pole position. The front row lockout at the moment. It's the Speed Cafe, the Lobs Esports Speed Cafe drivers. Jared Philsell and James Scott. Down's already gone through. He cannot improve on this run. What have these boys got as they're going to come to the final corner and try to set the stage alight? Black and green and one logo, Speed Cafe. And Sandman, there was no corner given there. That was all of the road and a bit beyond.
Took it straight to the limit, right to the edge there, and did improve, so he still holds on. He's just opened up that margin a tiny bit more, so he did find just that little bit more pace, didn't give up the corner, so that was good from Jared.
One of the other interesting things is that Ethan Grigault was a bit out of sequence, so his most recent flying lap was completed just as the rest of the field was starting their flying lap. So in among a bunch of cars that wouldn't have been fully up to speed, Ethan Grigault actually managed to punch out his personal best lap time and then came back on in to the pits. That lap time was good enough for 8th fastest so far.
And, towards the tail end of the time. So this will be an important lap for both Thomas Freeman and Griffin Gardner as they're looking to try and set their best lap times. time enough to start one more flying lap. And then it'll be into race mode. That'll be it. There'll be a couple of drivers maybe peeling off somewhere through the lap to do a practice start to potentially give themselves their last opportunity to get that out of the way. And then we'll set about mounting what looks to be Phillip Island 250 in terms of things. Teo Sorono is going to be one of the cars towards the head end of the field this time by. And an opportunity for Sorono, one of the drivers who made that jump over from Altus Esports Australia to the Vermilion Motorsports outfit. Now partners with Jack Dillon. And, well, if there's a track that partnership might come in handy at, might be Phillip Island Sandman.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how lucky we'd have this on our series, because it's such a brilliant little racetrack. And mate, I get jealous when we head here, and I know I say this a couple of times when we head to some of these racetracks, but Phillip Island, obviously it sort of sits in a lot of our backyards and we're very fond of this place. But to have the opportunity to race here and take it against some of the best drivers in esports, I mean, it's a real blessing. And yeah, very, very jealous at this point.
Lockie, at the moment, is there anyone out there that you've got your eye on? We talked about the underperformers, overperformers at this point in time. I think Rivera's done a reasonably good job. There's a couple others, I think, floating through the order. Talianchis is just going to finish a flying lap at this point and come across traffic.
Well, yeah, we've had a couple of mixed strategies here. So there were some drivers that came back into the pits for their last set of tyres a lap earlier, effectively, than everybody else. So that means that we could have a situation where there are some cars on their out lap while there are other cars on flying laps, which could potentially be a bit messy. So just keep your eye out here on drivers potentially on hot laps that are coming across slower moving traffic.
Look at the traffic that he's got to contend with too. I just hope that everyone's in their ears just saying, please guys, move over, there's someone on a hot lap. And regardless, even if the drivers move out of the way, it's still distracting as a driver knowing that, you know, they are going to move out of the way. Well, that's what you're hoping. But just, look at him. He's out of real estate there. He's just trying to thread the needle. Unbelievable.
There's no way. There's no way.
He's in trouble now. That's a real shame. These guys should have been a lot more aware of what was going on around them. And unfortunately, that's going to ruin Michael's lap.
We talked to Bo Albert during the qualifying series about what it means to be in bad spots during qualifying. He's unscrew this wheel. The lap's gone. Lap's absolutely gone by this point in time, and he'll have to walk it off. We'll get an opportunity. There won't be enough time to go out and send another flying lap, so we may as well just stick this one in the book and see what comes of it. Tally will come to the line, and then he's going to be the driver that jumps out of everyone else's way while they try and set a lap. He's disrupted the queue. It's not going to work out for him. He's already 2 seconds off the pace as he gets to the line. It will be 3 and a bit seconds in terms of things for Tally, which means the highest he can start this race will be from 37th spot. Got out of sync in terms of things, got out of the queue, and did not work out. My word. That was a nightmare scenario. That was absolutely horrendous.
And it wasn't an issue early on because everyone was in the same sequence. But then when you throw a spanner in the works where someone's just out of sequence with the rest of the field, it's kind of, you feel for him, but it was so congested. There was just nowhere for him to go.
Well, now it's going to be Sean McNamara who gets an opportunity to run at the front end of the queue. He's been in the pack the last couple of runs, sits in 30th as it currently stands. And
watch out for Marcello Rivera here, guys, because he's gone fastest of all through sector number 1. So a bit of energy in the racetrack heading into this final lap.
So the ERT driver who's looking to try and come and join Ethan Greig-Gault inside the top 10. The 395 Simsport cars at the head of the field. McNamara is doing all that he possibly can to set in the last opportunity, a last gasp lap as he comes towards the final couple of corners. Rivera, what's he going to have in terms of things at the tail end of qualifying? Checkered flags in the air. This will be the final runs to the flag. Who is going to be on top at Phillip Island? There was someone having to dive out before they made contact with the car ahead of them. Gilliam's still on a lap at the tail end of the field as well. The front end of town has not been troubled thus far through the lap. Now we look deeper in the field. Griffin Gardner's managed to get that car all the way to 14th. Hampstead slides to 20th. There's a number of drivers deeper in the field. Nixon sliding about way back down at the tail end of things. But in the meantime, we've got our eyes on Josh Anderson. Sits in 5th spot. He's got a TTR, a teammate ahead of him. 2 TTR teammates behind him. What are the TTR crew going to be able to do? Not good enough for pole position for many of them. But Brady Myers disrupts the Lobs Esports front row. Madison down, kicks him off it. Immediate 1-2 punch. What's Gilliam got at the tail end of qualifying? Comes to the line, 6th spot. Doesn't improve for Gilliam. So your front 5 remain just about unchanged. Greek Gold slides to 8th, and qualifying from the islands in the books, boys. 250 kilometres now to come. They've got to get out of quali mode now, and they've got a few minutes to settle themselves down before that race. Boy, that was hot at the end.
Yeah, how good was that? And that was just showing how crucial it is, regardless of, there's still a couple of minutes left on the clock to make the most of that lap, try to get that position, a little bit of drafted if you can get that for that toe. And you just saw a couple of people capitalise them. But at the end of the day, Jared managed to hold on. Absolutely. Look at the margins between the top 4. That's ridiculous.
Well, Lockie Mansell, go ahead and take us through the starting grid for the Phillip Island 250.
Yeah, well, shaping up to be a Lobs Esports versus TTR battle, isn't it? Jared Field still on pole position, the reigning series champ. Madison down right alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then if we look to the second row, we've got another TTR car and another Lobs Esports car with Brady Myers third and James Scott out of grid position number 4. On row 3 of the grid, Andrew Gilliam. He was very quick in practice, and he will line up alongside Jake Burton, those cars in positions 5 and 6 respectively. Then it's back to Josh Anderson out of position 7, 8th and Greg Galt. Best of the Evolution Racing Team drivers in 8th position. Rounding out the top 10 at Jake Maloney in 9th. Dylan Runn, 3rd of the Lobs Esports Speed Cafe cars in position 10.
Go over the page now and we'll pick up the next of the Lobs Esports cars with Luke Rosella off alongside of Marcelo Rivera. Set the fastest sector 1, couldn't improve upon that lap enough to get inside the 10. We'll throw it to row number 7, which will be Rick Kuznetsov. Think about his championship standings in terms of things. Off alongside of him will be another Trans-Tasman racing car of Kurt Stenberg. Throwing back to row number 8 will be Griffin Gardner to the inside, off alongside of Forza El Nami, the highest place of the Synergy Sim racing cars. And one more row back, we'll pick up Tom Freer for Synergy Sim Racing off alongside of Robbie Gibbs. Remember, Robbie won race number 1. Wayne Burke will be off alongside of Adam Briggs to round out our top 20, Sam. And over to you for the third 10.
21st, we've got Richard Hampstead, Blake Warboys in 22nd. In 23rd place, we've got Damien Johnston, Bo Albert, a little bit further back than Bo would have liked, back in 24th position, so he's got his work cut up for him, along with Brenton Hobson too. He wouldn't be too impressed with that. 25th place, Sebastian Flock in 26th, but plenty of laps for these guys to make their way up through the field. Dylan O'Shea in 27th. In 28th, it's Matthew Bowler in 29th position. A little bit further down the grid, we see Jacob O'Reilly, and rounding out the 30, it's Hayden Veld.
Very quickly running through the rest of the grid, Zach Rattray White, we'll catch up with him shortly. Also, Ian Ford, back to Jordan Ross in 33rd, Sean McNamara 34th, then it's Scott Gamble, Connor Nixon, Josh Thomas, Michael Taliancic, back to Brian Borg and Teo Serrano, rounding out your top 40. And the final starters will consist of Brady Baldwin in 41st position, Michael Whiting in 42nd spot, Andre Youssef and Thomas Freeman rounding out the field. Time to catch up with some of the drivers after that qualifying session. And we'll start off with the driver who was fastest out of all of them. A very strong performance in the opening round of the season at Sebring ultimately came to naught, but Jared Filsell, this time you won't have to work through from the back of the grid because you're starting right up the front out of P1. How was that qualifying session?
Yeah, it was pretty good. A lot of traffic in that little middle portion of the qualifying session. I think it paid dividends to just be patient and get out of that and then do our own thing towards the end of the session there. Yeah, it was good. I honestly didn't expect pole. I love-hate relationship with this track, so I'll take it, but yeah, can't get points for quality.
In a session like that one where you've got different drivers on different sequences, sometimes you might have a few drivers on hot laps while others are on in or out laps. How awkward and how tricky can that be to manage?
Yeah, obviously some other tracks where it's quite tight is very tricky because unless you have a track map, you honestly have no idea who's on a lap, and the relative can only tell you so much. But luckily, there was only 1 or 2 people at the end there on that very last lap, so nah, it wasn't an issue at all tonight, fortunately.
Well, you're starting up the front, you're in a good position, and you do have some teammates around you as well, so go well tonight. And wandering a few rows back on the grid down to position number 5, where we find Jake Burton, is Scott Rankin.
Jake, obviously not the start to the season that you were necessarily looking for. You're back up at the pointy end of things here, and you were walking around this place, only a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that's it. You know, I was walking in the races too. Those XLs aren't all that quick, so yeah. But yeah, excited to be back here. Absolutely awesome facility. So much fun. It's my favourite track, so keen for this one.
Mate, in terms of things, surely you're going to rough up those teammates just ahead of you. Can't be third in the team. That's not good enough for Jake Burton, is it?
The practice races have been pretty intense this week, mate. Honestly, yeah, there was stuff thrown out the cot last night, that's for sure. So whether it's with James, Jared, or one of my teammates, I'm sure it's going to be pretty hard fought. But yeah, I think slightly longer race than what we had last year, so there's a little bit more to consider. Bit of strategy and that sort of thing. So I think it'll be pretty tame for the first half.
Mate, good luck here tonight, and survive that lap 1, turn 1, won't you?
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Rolling a little bit further down the field, we're going to be chatting to Matthew Bowler. Sam Mann's got him on standby.
Matthew, mate, 28th position on the grid. It's a beautiful view. Obviously, it's not, you're not here for the scenic views. You're here for the win. How was quali, mate? Obviously not as ideal as you'd like, but you're on the grid, mate, and plenty of laps to get the job done.
Yeah, not too happy with quali. I couldn't actually hook up a lap at all, so I'm definitely looking at too many cars in front of me. But yeah, it's a long race, and like we saw in round 1, anything can happen. So yeah, I guess it was just about playing it safe for the whole race pretty much until it all unfolds.
And plenty of laps to get the job done, like I mentioned. And you said, being this far back in the grid, I guess you can probably breathe a little bit of sigh of relief because Phillip Island's sort of fast, a little bit sweepy. You've probably got a little bit of room. You don't have to worry about possibly too much carnage in front of you, maybe the opening lap at the hairpin. But other than that, fingers crossed, it should be nice and clean for you.
Yeah, hairpin will definitely be the main issue for most people. I think everyone will be pretty cautious. But yeah, obviously we got a good points haul in the first round, so we'll just take it nice and easy this race and just make sure we get a finish.
All the best, mate. Keep it clean, and hopefully we'll talk to you at the end of the night.
Awesome, thank you.
And now our last person on to have a chat with, we've got Zachary Roddy-White, and I believe Lockie's standing by with him.
Yeah, one of the rookies in the field, Zach Rat-Ray-White, starting out of grid position number 31. Zach, welcome to the Logitech G Pro Invitational A Series. How are you finding life in the series so far?
It's not too bad. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Obviously, best people in Australia, so I'm getting a handle on the cars still, so just chugging along, seeing what I can do. Not really expecting too much.
How much did you learn from the opening round of the series at Sebring?
I realised that the setup we were running was straight doo-doo, so yeah, tried to swing the other direction for the setup, so yeah.
Bit of soul searching in between rounds. What's your plan for tonight? How do you think the race is going to play out?
I reckon there might be a bit of carnage, so I'll try and just miss all the blue shells fired back this way, so yeah, just try and keep it clean.
And I am loving the Vermilion Motorsport colour schemes. We're getting a real sense of fun in the Vermilion Motorsport outfit. How much are you enjoying working with your teammates?
Yeah, man, it's great. Good bunch of people now. Yeah, we're firing on all cylinders at the moment.
That's good to hear. Well, you've got 57 laps ahead of you, so all the best for tonight.
Cheers, mate.
There we go, Zach Rat-Ray-White, one of the rookies in the field. And Scott, And Sandman, it's it's always interesting to do those grid walks and hear the varying comments from the drivers depending on where they've qualified. We've got everybody from the super fast, super experienced people like Jared Filsell and Jake Burton up towards the pointy end, down to somebody like Matthew Bowler who didn't qualify as well as he was planning, and then a complete rookie like Zach Ray White who, in all honesty, is just enjoying the opportunity to be part of this field.
Mate, how good's the camera work that's going on here? We've got Jay Kennedy who sit behind things in terms of things piloting the drone, and I get the feeling that he's enjoying tinkering around with that controller at the moment and flying a drone straight over the field. He's thoroughly enjoying that. No, I'm gonna have to go and check out Ian Ford's car. I just noticed there was some more really tiny whiting that was on the rear wing of his car. So might have to get another close-up of that, boys. We are less than a minute away from the start of round number 2 for 2024. Pit stop window will be the key that we're talking about here tonight, boys. And do not push/pull. That's it. Don't touch the rear wing. It might cost you 50,000 euro if you're Sebastian Vettel. Got a pick for the race here tonight, Lockie. We'll start with you and then we'll jump into this race, I think.
Oh, wow. I think it's going to be very tight up the front, but I'm going to say Madison down for this one. I think that the TTR squad, we've seen that when they're engaged in close battles with their rivals, they're often very good at making the right strategic decisions on the fly, and Madison's obviously qualified extremely well.
Righto, the revs, they start to rise. It's Phillip Island, it's 250 kilometres. Who is going to set their championship alight? And who is going to fall by the wayside? Not a great getaway from Jared Filsell. It's actually going to be the TTR car from row number 2. Brady Myers got a phenomenal getaway. He's going to lead the field down into turn number 1. I was just about to say, this is the guy I was looking for. Who's going to set their own race series alight this season? Brady Myers gets to the lead. Who's going to follow their way in behind him? Have a look at Dylan Rudd. Might have one of the best opportunities to win a championship he's ever likely to see in 2024 at the Logitech Pro Invitational. They all survived coming through the Southern Loop on lap number 1, and now it's try and get through Stoner and then down into Miller. Here's Sandman.
Absolute cracker of a start on Myers in 3, but yeah, rev run right into the braking zone now. It's so easy to lock a brake here, especially on cold tyres, cold brakes. Everyone's trying to make the most of the position, but it looks like everyone's got through scot-free, just giving each other that little bit of racing room. It's important to get this first lap under the belt and then just make sure you've got a straight race car. Get on with it. It's only lap 1 of 57, and boy, oh boy, how was that start from Myers? P3, P1.
Yeah, and now they're going to try and settle their way down on and in. Who's managed to get themselves a reasonably good race car? Who is going to start fuel saving? Who is going to be trying to push to get that race lead back? It's going to be Filsell, who's locked in to second spot. Madison Downs managed to hang on to P3. Nearly lost it out. Looks like Jake Burton might have gotten a reasonable getaway and moved himself up a slot as he tries to move a touch further forward. Have a look a little bit deeper in the pack. I think there's a couple cars side by side as they come to the last corner. Seb Flock is absolutely engaged and locked in horns with the 89 car to his inside. And now Blake Warboys is getting in amongst it as well. Part of the problem is they're going to lock horns. They're going to lock horns and push each other. It's the Synergy Sim racing car, the 89 machine, who is getting pushed. And Dylan O'Shea's got himself a black flag. I think that might be a jump start, so he's going to have to come through the pit lane. It was Wayne Burke that was getting the push on there. So they all managed to settle down in. Southern Loop on lap number 2, and it's one of the Vermilion Sim racing cars that gets to the inside, trying to make a move in that 20th. It's actually Rattray White that we were talking to, 31st to 24th on that opening lap, Sandman.
How good's that? It must have been the pep talk. It must have been that he knows the setup's not straight doo-doo this week. So a brilliant start from him. Hopefully he can improve and just keep it going. He's quietly said that he was my pick, so he's doing a great job.
Check this out, 3 wide as they get down into some area. They managed to get out there all but one. Who managed to survive to poke their nose out the other side. Right about the 951 machine. Indeed, it was Sean McNamara who was the car on the outside. Look at Bo Albert falling through the pack like a rock. Started out at 24th position, down to 36 and continuing to fall.
Yeah, he may have got just, I think, got pushed out and might have got on grass a little bit. So, yeah, it's not ideal, obviously, but, you know, at the end of the day, he's managed to push on now. He's got a straight race car, just put it behind him. And now I'm starting to see a little bit of trait what Filsell's doing. I think he's probably quite content to sit.
Time is significant significantly slow, and then a little bit of wheel spin didn't help that one out, and Myers just got straight through. Have a look at them. Was that 4 wide and blocking on the run down to turn number 1, deep in the background as well. That is a race start at Phillip Island. Long run at turn 1, and then keep an eye on Ian Ford a little bit deeper in the field. And the 115 car in the yellow ERT livery on the inside, and there's a car sideways. He cuts the grass to avoid, and still more contacts.
Man, talk about innocent bystander. I thought they were pretty clean at the start of that, but unfortunately he's got contact there.
Griegold, Ethan Griegold, that was an engine expiring from Ethan Griegold. He's trying to get off the racing line, he's trying to get out of their way, but that is an engine blown. And for the driver who did score points and was one of the best plays out of everyone last round that we were looking at to potentially win the championship, it's gone as far as lap 3. That'll be a safety car for sure. And Ethan Griegold is out of round number 2 on lap 3. Who had that in their bingo card?
Oh, I wonder if it's on the downshift. Yes, I reckon it's straight into the downshift, and unfortunately that's let go for him. But man, talk about holding the breath too. Seeing that happen in front of you, that is unbelievable. So really got to feel for him, especially when that's out of his hands. But happened on the downshift, and now he's just basically he's a spectator for the rest of the night now.
Well, race controller keeping half an eye on him at the moment, so safety car could be imminent. We are on lap number 4 as it currently stands, and that opens up the pit lane window. Remember what we're talking about? Well, compulsory pit stops now open to these drivers. Who's going to dive to the lane though? Who's going to be the first ones that's going to dive in? There is a couple of drivers at the back end of the field who are diving to the lane.
Yeah, I think they're probably just taking a stab that there will be a safety car, but I think he's out of the way. I don't know if there's going to be a safety car. The stewards are probably obviously looking at it, but yep, there we go. They've thrown the safety car, so that's why a couple of those drivers probably jumped the gun and pitted straight away.
So they'll be looking to try and jump one spot further up. Lockie, have you got anything from pit lane?
Well, basically, I think you can expect the entire field to come down pit lane. I very much doubt that anybody would stay out under this safety car given that the pit window's open, because the alternative strategy of staying out and then trying to race against a bunch of cars that have already got their first compulsory stop done under safety car, it's just you're going to lose, you're going to fall backwards. So the pit lane is going to be an absolute hive of activity here.
Yeah, and in they all come. Time to make that time on pit lane, time to lose some time. There's not going to be a huge hole in the tank either. It's only going to be about 12 litres, which is not really enough to cover tyres. And that's Seb Flock up ahead that's just made contact with the pit lane barriers, I believe. There's something further that's going on there. But that is definitely Sebastian Flock, who was struggling to keep that car on the road. He's come down through the lane. He's off the jacks. I think he's got damage. He's getting repaired.
It looks like everyone managed to get. We talked about how tricky that the pit lane entry can be, but everyone's got through there fairly clean off the jacks. Everyone's away. But you touched on it, boys. It's you'd be shooting yourself in the foot big time, wouldn't you, Lockie? Just not taking that opportunity. It's almost like a free pit stop. People will pretty much hold position. There might be a couple of switches up and down the lane, but majority of the field will pretty much come out roughly where they are, and they've already ticked the box for one of those compulsory pit stops.
Yeah, now that that's done, so that first pit stop's done, now you recalculate your strategy. So what everybody will do from this point on, I would imagine, is they'll try and split the race probably into roughly half. So we'd complete, 4 laps, so that leaves 53 laps to go. So you'd expect people to probably run to about now lap 26 or 27 before the next pit stop and try and flip the tyre wear evenly across your last 2 stints or your last 2 sets of tyres.
That's going to be difficult kind of to do from here. What are we? We're at lap 5 at the moment, so 52. Split it in half is 26 laps, so lap 31. Quick head
and
maps.
Everybody, no surprises that everybody stops pretty much exactly the same amount of time, because as you mentioned, not a lot of space in the tank to put the fuel in, so you would have just topped up with fuel, changed tyres, and then away you go again. So everybody with pretty much identical pit stop times in this sequence. And the key thing here at the restart, guys, it comes back to what I was talking about earlier, where you just have to be a little bit conservative in how you bring the tyres in. Now you're probably going to have to go a fair bit further on your next 2 sets of tyres than what you would have planned on at the start of the race. So making sure you don't go too hard too early is now going to be even more important than before.
It was something I touched on a little bit at the start of the broadcast when we spoke about the strategy of taking that fuel. You know, obviously you can make it with fuel, pitting this early, but I think race car drivers, their best friends on race day are tyres. So, you know, these guys will be very cautious and making sure they look after them, because the last thing you want is to be in the thick of a battle and have no Dunlop underneath you.
Just having a look around at the socials as well, I can tell you there's a ton of people tuning in to round number 2. Why wouldn't you, after all the drama that unfolded on in round number 1 from Sebring? Well, if you're just now tuning in, the race story thus far is we're only a couple laps in. We've already got our first safety car of the night. Will there be 2? Will there be more than 1? That question remains to be seen. Ethan Griegold in the number 7 car, the cause of it, downshift and a blown engine for the lead ERT driver, and that may spell disaster in terms of his championship hopes. 1 round in and not a lot of points on the table. 2 rounds in and even less will not look positive for his season in terms of things. But Brady Myers got that jump, got away. James Scott was reasonable in qualifying. The TTR cars all got reasonable getaways. Jake Burton jumped James Scott as well. Andrew Gilliam's sitting back there in the first of a million cars, the first non-lobs, first non-TTR car. All of a sudden, he'll have a sniff and he'll just sort of be searching around. He'll know there's a little bit of blood in the water between lobs and TTR. That relationship does not sit well, Sam, man.
I reckon it's a good battle for us sitting up here in the commentary box. You know, these guys always turn it on, and you know, they don't give each other an inch. It's really good to watch. But tell you what do you reckon? The TTR boys will be going over Brady's Arda for the start. That was an absolute cracker. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
So we're going to jump to a replay of something happening towards the tail end of lap 2. So this is coming down to MG.
Whoa.
That was Matthew Bolo getting contact, and was that O'Reilly or Rattray? Well, that might have been Rattray White. Rattray White's come to the pit lane. Oh, that's why the block was in.
Man.
And Hayden Veld, who you might remember was on the podium in our season opener at Sebring, got caught up in that one as well. So that answers the question as to why Sebastian Flock spent so long in pit lane. That would have been significant damage to his car. And in fact, he's still in pit lane at the moment, getting some attention. So he's actually done a couple of stops.
They might have had a meatball flag, but he's still in there at the moment. Something else has happened to Griffin Gardner as well, because he's now at 4 laps down. So there's something happened to a number of those cars. That might have been damage repair as well for Griffin Gardner. But yeah, either way. Oh no, it was another internet drama.
Grid. Can you believe it? That's the second round in a row that Griffin Gardner has had technical problems. Unbelievable.
Well, safety car is trundling away from the field as it currently stands, which means Brady Myers has control. And, got to chat to Madison down a little bit earlier in the week, by the way. He said, asked him, who is your most favourite? Who is the student that everyone will know the most? Did you know that one of the early people that he actually coached was James Scott?
Oh, might be regretting that now.
Well, he actually loves it because now he's got a few more people up the front end to go and fight with. Safety cars in the pit lane. We are under the control of the 22 car. Brady Myers will lead the field back to green flag racing. Jared Philsell is going to be right there and right attached to his rear bumper. How late do they wait? They might wait a fair way to go because in terms of things, you don't want to give that toe off to the boys sitting in behind. Sam, you'd wait till the last minute?
Yeah, well, I guess they'd be talking with their TTR teammates too. So yeah, it looks like they've already picked up the speed now. So they're going to get going now before the start-finish straight. So a good jump, a little bit unpredictable, but that's the best part about being the leader for these restarts.
And now Jake Burton connects with the rear bumper of Madison Down. They are playing NASCAR as they go bump drafting on the run down to turn number 1. Madison Down is going to be alongside of Jared Philsell. Philsell, they will lock arms, they will lock wheels, they all get out the other side. Or have they for the moment? Because Philsell's still alongside. Preferred line through turn 2 is going to be on the inside of the road, but Philsell Cell's now going to find a way to slot into this one, and he's surrounded by a hornet's nest of TTR, Trans-Tasman racing cars. When they come, they're in a swarm, and they're all assaulting Jared Phillip as it currently stands.
How good was that battle between those two? Phil and Down, they were side by side, didn't lean on each other once. I don't think there was much more than a cigarette paper between them. But the cars are both straight. They both give each other just enough room, and now they just push on for the battle. But man, oh man, that was a brilliant, brilliant battle into the turn.
5-second penalty coming the way of the 06 machine. And that is going to go into Bo Albert for contact on lap 2, turn 1. So at the end of the main straight on lap number 2, now they try and find their way down on an end. Madison Downs managed to get through, but Brady Myers currently leads the way in the TCR battle. Now it becomes, though, a strategy if it's now a 1 pit stop race, 24, lap 24, got to get there before you can come to the lane. And the window, realistically, from there, maybe 10 laps long. It's Force Nalnami way out in the gravel, in the sand trap, and tumbling through the order like a rock. And he's got nowhere he can rejoin either.
No, and there's nothing he can do. He was a passenger. As soon as he got that the rear on the grass, he just had to basically just hold station and just let everyone go past him. So be kicking himself, but the car's straight, and now he just pushes on.
He was 17th when that happens for Forza El Nami. And you get the feeling he's going to be at the tail end of the field by the time that's all resolved. He's dropped deep in the pack at the start-finish line as 35th, and I think he's continued to tumble after that. But, boy, that's not a night that he was looking for. And he was so quick. He was right there and in the top 5 last round too, Sam, man.
Just looking at the battle scars at the side of Hampstead on the Mustang there. So he's obviously been in the thick of it for these opening laps. And, of course, I guess he was one of the victims of the opening round drama. Got that penalty. We thought he took the checkered flag, but unfortunately he was penalised for that. So now he needs to put that behind him and push on. But definitely got his work cut out for him. That little bit of damage won't sort of put too much of a dent in him as far as speed, but when it starts to get that damage on the front of it, that's the bit that he needs to look after.
Yeah, and now he's going to have Robbie Gibbs. Remember, penalised the last round, gave Robbie Gibbs. This is exactly how they crossed the finish line in round number 1. But it was for first and second on the road that became 30th and first as it stood post-race. But now these guys will go to business once again. Hampstead should be feeling like he's got a little bit of pace in that car. Up to 14th as it currently stands, +7 from where he started. Let's keep a little bit of an eye a little bit further up the road, because we'll talk about the 2 drivers that we think are probably going to be in terms of championship contention. Probably Dylan Rudd and Rick Kuznetsov would think they've probably got one of the better hopes in the field. 5th and 6th, Rudd finished 5th, Kuznetsov 6th last time out. And we're going to bring you the first points check-in as it currently stands. Gibbs still leads the way, so it's good enough to lead the way at this current junction, but there is 2 points to Freer and 2 points to Dylan Rudd. There is nothing in that top 3 fight.
That's incredible, isn't it? That's just like, that could be the difference in, a fast and a slow pit stop, so we'll see a little bit of a flash of the lights there. So these guys just not giving an inch. They're pushing on as hard as they can, but yeah, it's so incredible how close the points are, and really going to be interesting to watch as the season unfolds.
That was Dylan O'Shea and Josh Thomas getting into it. So 9.5 Sin Sports meets Vermilion. Sorry, actually Tao Sorono's the next car up on the road. So O'Shea's got lights on. Now he dives to the inside of MG. Gets it down the inside. Job's not done here though. He's got to narrow the approach now. And will manage to do so, but now he's on the outside. He's got to hold momentum. They nearly bang doors as they come to the second last corner. Gets 3/4 of the car ahead and finally forces the 111 machine to back out. And finally, Tao Sorono is forced to put up the white flag and surrender. Job done, Dylan O'Shea moves himself up another spot's 28th as he currently stands. Really good move. So many things have to go right. You have to get your braking right into that downhill section. You don't want to pinch a brake because it's so easy to slide into the door of someone, but they both gave each other enough racing room, and he got the job done around the outside. Now you're looking at Josh Anderson's windscreen as he looks ahead to Andrew Gilliam. Remember, Gilliam won races last year as well, so will think himself an opportunity to steal some points and steal some race wins at some stage throughout the year. New team, new outfit, new outlook, new partnerships all over that car as he steps out of Altus Esports. And into the Vermilion Motorsports machine with the Doing OK branding. What a race to debut that car in the Logitech Pro Series as well. Somewhere you'd want to do it for a Doing branded car. It's got to be Phillip Island, right, Sammy?
Look, I can't say how much I love this joint enough. You know, you're going to be sick of me saying it by the end of the broadcast, but it's been such a favourite just because it played a crucial part, because when iRacing debuted, that was the first of the Australian tracks, and we were just like, how good is it? So, you know, it freaks me out to think how many laps that people and drivers have actually done around this racetrack. So, always puts on a good show, and thrilled to have it part of the Logitech series.
They'll settle themselves down and in. Any fuel saving? Anyone you're thinking up and down the field, Lockie Mansell at the moment, that might be doing a little bit of fuel saving, might be trying to get that advantage through a shorter time next time through pit lane?
Pretty much everyone. But I think we've seen that the TTR cars have been very good at it in the past. Brady Myers, though, doesn't seem to be doing a huge amount of fuel saving at the moment. He seems content to keep pressing on, although in the last lap or so I see that Madison Down has just closed that gap a little bit, but it's like I said, it's not just about the fuel, but it's about the tyres as well. So just making sure that you bring those tyres in nice and gently, and don't put any unnecessary load through them by braking and turning at the same time, or by generating rear wheel spin on the exit of some of the slower corners.
So Forza El Nabi, I think he fell back as far as 40th, is now trying to climb his way back through the field. And Michael Taliancic, the car just ahead of him, one of the last remaining Altus Australia cars, as he defends from Forza El Nabi, and El Nazi's lurking. He's thinking, I'm going to find a way, I'm going to harass and harangue and find a way through it. It might be down at turn number 1 this next time by. He's got to be a touch closer though. I think he's just a touch too far back at the moment. It's a good run through the last corner, Sandman.
Yeah, I do love sometimes the onboard shots just show you how crucial that draft is, and how much you can gain from it. But I guess it sort of starts to be a bit of a slipstream battle. If you've got someone that's got a toe as well, sometimes it's hard to get the job done. But you can see, look at this, just trying to pull out, doesn't quite get the nose alongside, has to tuck back in, but smart racing there. You don't want to do anything silly, especially into that turn. It's such a fast part of the racetrack.
Now they get down to the southern loop, that back end of the train, as the leaders make their way down through Jack Miller Corner and then on to Siberia. It always catches you out every single time you come to Phillip Island and do some laps, whether in the sim or in real life, just how much understeer, how little turn there is at Siberia. Someone's around. It's a 111 car in Miller Corner, which will be that of Tao Sorono, and he was moving through the field well. And that's all come unstuck rather quickly. 40th to 29th, now all the way back to the tail end of the field.
To get a replay into the braking zone. Oh, he's got some help there. Bang, a little bit of contact though. Lucky not to get... Oh man, I spoke too soon. I was going to say he was lucky not to get nailed there, but he actually got clipped by 2 other cars there. So he's going to be carrying a little bit of damage on the front end of that car.
And I think Michael Whiting in car 025 will be in a bit of strife for that one, because he was nowhere near far enough down the inside. So I think you can pretty much slam dunk penalty for Whiting.
It would have been a heart and mouth moment too. Sorry to cut you off there. It would have been a heart and mouth moment, because if they had brought a safety car out, then the teams would have been like, already lap 13. You know, yeah, they could tick the mandatory pit stop thing off, but man, a long way to go on this for another set of tyres if it was supposed to go green.
And you wouldn't get there on fuel range either, because they haven't reached the critical lap, which we think is around lap number 25. So if there was to be a safety car now, if you're a bit further back in the pack, you might take another splash to give yourself a shorter pit stop later, but I doubt that any of the front runners would pit at the moment.
This is Michael Taliancic, and that's what he had to look like when he got to Miller. Nothing he could have done.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much more crank you put in the wheel there, you just can't miss it. He just had absolutely nowhere to go. So hopefully, you know, obviously he's going to carry a little bit of damage, but hopefully it's not going to impact him too much as this race goes on.
Meanwhile, the battle up front hasn't really gone anywhere. No one's really changed positions in a good while, other than Jared Filsell at the restart. Marcelo Rivera's gone from 12th to 8th, so he's at least gained some spots. Dylan Rudd's grabbed 1 to be inside the top 10, and him and Jake Maloney have swapped positions from where they started. Other than that, Kuznetsov grabbed 2 early on. Tom Freeze actually grabbed 4 and made some reasonably good games. I think it was Sean McNamara is plus 14 at the moment. So McNamara is plus 14, Whiting was plus 13. He's going to get a penalty for that, so that won't be the case anymore. Thomas Freeman's also up in number of spots. Jordan Ross looking good. Scott Gamble looking good as well. And those are your big movers at this point in the race. I'll tell you what, Connor Nixon's also up plus 11. So there's a number of drivers who have gained a host of positions as it currently stands.
I think it's time for some of these drivers that if they may have thought that they probably weren't a massively strong chance to get the job done tonight, this is probably where they can have this point of the race where they can probably push on a little bit, because I think as we've started to see, you know, that front group really aren't doing anything too much. I think they're just ticking the laps off. They're waiting for their fuel numbers to sort of get to a point where they can start thinking about pit stops. But I think for the moment, you're not really going to see too much happen up the front. I think these guys are all quite content just to sit there and run, look after their cars, save a bit of fuel. So if you're a little bit further down in the pack, it might be that chance to maybe pick off a couple of cars and grab some positions.
So much fuel games going on at the moment. You can just see it. Look at the trainer cars. There's a great onboard that really tells the story for Marcelo Rivera. 14 laps of the race in, and we're at a quarter race distance as it currently stands. As they stand on the power and run down to Melbourne Australia Bridge. Just going to try and get some sort of an idea of who's saving. No, Rivera ran that throttle in quite deep there. That wasn't a lot of saving, if any, at all.
Yeah, I was watching. He's bouncing off that rev limiter as he got into the braking zone. So, yeah, he's not too worried about saving any fuel at this stage. So, pushing on quite hard, which is a little bit of a surprise. I thought they'd probably take that opportunity just to save where they could.
This is probably one of the better battles in the field at the moment. Kurt Stenberg looks backwards at Adam Briggs. And Robbie Gibbs has actually managed to overtake Stenberg, move further into the field. That's now it's going to be Stenberg who comes under assault from Synergy Sim Racing driver.
And just a bit of an update as far as the race control situation goes. Probably not too much of a surprise here that Michael Whiting, for that contact with Teo Sorono in the Hill corner a couple of laps ago, has been given a drive-through penalty, so he'll take it to and through pit lane.
In terms of point scenarios, probably something to keep in the back of your mind for Griffin Gardner and Seb Flock. Ethan Griggold's night's done. But for those two, 75% race distance and must cross the finish line on the last lap. Well, quarter race distance, we just tipped it over, so it's effectively about 14 laps. That's the first you can be. So Seb Flock needs to get back out on track out now, and can't really lose that much more time to score points. But I think his night might be there. Griffin Gardner, that's an important marker to keep an eye on. If he just circulates for the rest of the race, he will score points at least.
A lot of people forget.
Tough start to the season for him, though, hasn't it? I mean, sorry to cut you off there, Sam, man, but to have technical internet issues 2 rounds in a row, need to maybe look at updating his internet service provider.
You're not wrong there. And that's heartbreaking too, isn't it? Because it's totally out of his hands. Had absolutely nothing to do with it. And unfortunately, it's cost him anyone a strong start for this championship.
Josh Thomas, in the meantime, going toe-to-toe as it currently stands. And, it's Damien Johnson who's managed to get the pass done on him. And now I'll be looking forward to Connor Nixon's starting to give him a real hurry up as well. So Nixon's tyres are hanging on quite well. Probably for Nixon, he's got a huge whack in the left rear corner at some stage in everything that's gone on thus far. A wild odd month for Connor Nixon. Started the series in Vermilion Motorsports, qualified his way through, no longer with that roster. A replay of something, this is the overtake, so it was the run wide.
Yeah. And no doubt probably that little bit of damage just hurt his aero, just that creating that little bit of understeer, just touched the grass. It could have been a lot worse, but yeah, never ideal going into turn 1 when you run that wide.
Shall we say the DRS train continues back up at the front end of things? Although Phil Still's a lot closer to Madison Down than he has been for a little while. He's just about connected to Madison Down's rear bumper, and then you've got this battle pack a little bit further back. I wonder whether or not he's lining him up for a go. He's close enough, thinking it. No, he's lifting. There was a big lift there. He got a run. Let me look a little bit further down the pad. It's just sort of keeping an eye on things. So Phil Sell is massively saving more than any of the other cars that are actually around him at this point in time. To the inside now goes Bo Albert on Richard Hampstead. No, sorry, not Richard Hampstead. Robbie Gibbs, my apologies. Robbie Gibbs down the inside of Richard Hampstead. It's the 0-2 is Bo Albert, not the 2.
Yeah, just before that safety car came out, I touched on it that, it seems to be playing into Jared's wheelhouse a little bit. When Brady jumped him at the start, I didn't think he was too concerned because he is the kind of driver that, regardless of how his start was, he's quite content to sit there and save whatever fuel he can. So I think he's definitely in a position now where he's just tucked in behind Madison. I don't think he's too concerned at this stage. And like you said, you can already hear that he's saving fuel. And that shouldn't surprise us with Jared. He needs to be a bit of a master at that. And always good to save fuel when you can, regardless of where you are on the track, because you just don't know how it could benefit you as the race goes on.
That's the first real break in the chain as we're currently seeing on the run down to turn number 1. And it's going to be the Synergy Sim Racing driver. Is that Johnston once again that's going to have a go to the inside? Indeed it is. And we get another move done. It wasn't Johnson, my apologies. And now they'll run into each other down at turn 1. Little bit of brake locking, and it's Bo Albert that's to the inside. Keep an eye from Brake Warboy's point of view. It's Brent Hobson, my apologies. That's on the right hand side of the screen. But this is important for all of these guys. They've got to get this job done. All this squabbling has cost them the title, and now it's going to be the response on the rundown in here from Matt Bowler. And Warboys is sitting there and just watching and going, I wish there was somewhere for me to go, because he looks like he's got speed on the guys ahead.
Yeah, just that little bit of a brake lock. I think that just cost him a little bit, put the car wide, but he's held on, and now he's just going to see what he can do, try and push and get away from this. But looking very racy back here.
Something's just happened. Dylan O'Shea's off the circuit. Dylan O'Shea is off the circuit. I have no idea. He's over the fence.
Where is he?
He might have popped their engine on the run down to Jack Miller corner, and then he's just run the escape road and hidden behind the tyre barrier.
Yeah, it looks like it. Oh, another motor. That's well, we know that won't bring out a safety car. He's definitely out of harm's way, but heartbreak if he's launched the motor there, and that's not over for him.
Yeah, and no safety car needed. The car was already in a safe position. Safe enough. Right call, I think, from race control's perspective. So it'll be night done from Dylan O'Shea. Remember, he was quick last year.
Good sportsmanship there from Dylan O'Shea as well, gentlemen, because as we have a look at the replay of what has happened on the run down into Miller corner, and the engine has gone there, and he's been able just to head straight up the escape road and park behind the time wall out of harm's way. Like I said, good sportsmanship to get that car into a position where it wasn't going to trigger another safety car.
So out of the way. And if you cast your mind back to Sandown last year, he was right there and in with a shot at winning that race, and still managed to finish on the podium. But a post-race penalty for breach of safety car procedure, I believe, cost him that podium result. So he's taken a little bit of a look at himself and gone, yeah, there's some policy procedure signals I can tighten up on. Done so quite well. But I think this battle that's in and around Brenton Hobson is very, very important for a lot of those cars this race scenario. Matthew Bowler's now lost another spot to Blake Warboys.
So we're probably coming up towards lap number 20. We're probably starting to get to the stage now where drivers who've got a little bit too enthusiastic early in the stint and punched their tyres might just be starting to suffer a little bit, and that could be what we're starting to see here. For Matthew Bowler losing a couple of spots in the last couple of laps.
I'll tell you what, the wind direction as well is calm. It's rather calm in terms of the track conditions here today. The track's relatively cool down at 24 degrees Celsius. Only partly cloudy. Air temp. Of course, it's never going to be a warm day at Phillip Island. It's 19 degrees down there as it currently stands. And the wind southwesterly, about 8-9 kilometres an hour. It's really tight. Jake Maloney's going to fire it down the inside on Dylan Rudd. Gets to the inside. Really get the job done as they get out the other side. That'll be the key marker now, as Rudd will go toe-to-toe. Yep. Jake Maloney nicks one spot off a Dylan Rudd, who might have been napping just a little fraction there.
Yeah, and Yeah, it sort of surprised me too that he took that dive and made the move up the inside. So, yeah, you thought that he wasn't going to get too much pressure there, but got the job done, and now it's eyes forward. And you're probably thinking about, does he start to push on now? Like we touched on before, they'll be starting to think about that next pit stop, calculating what they've got underneath them and what their tyre life is. And I guess if they think they've got a little bit of rubber to burn, it's probably the best time to use it.
Now starting another chain of cars queuing up behind Matt Bowler. So that's what it looks like in terms of things. 10 kilometres an hour at the moment. It's sort of hovering around the 8-9 marker. But since qualifying, that track temps died off quite a way in terms of things. We're up around 30-degree mark for qualifying. It's now come down significantly. The race looks after your tyres quite well. Meantime, last lap time for Brendan Hobson will be quite key, 29.5. And the next car on the road is Adam Briggs. It's about 2.5 seconds down the road. They just about match lap time, so he's not making any inroads on the cars up ahead of him as it currently stands from Brendan Hobson's point of view. A field spread's starting to happen, boys, which means there might be an opportunity for some more overtakes.
How's the communication between this lot too? I think TTR obviously be pretty happy with the way the race has played out. They've definitely got a number of drivers up in that end, and they'll be talking about them, how their cars are going. They'll be starting to think about these pit stops and a little bit more action here.
It's Matt Bowler. Well, you get the feeling that he's no longer feeling like the bowling ball. He's now feeling like one of the 10 pins. Be Sean McNamara will be the next driver to line him up and have a go. He's definitely been the cork in that bottle. About half a second now, the cars, once they've cleared him, they're starting to sort of disappear down the road just a little bit. McNamara's got to think about this a little bit. He's got Jordan Ross in underneath his rear wing as well. They're all queuing up for a go. So best way to defend sometimes, boys, is to have a crack at being on the offensive.
And sometimes one of the concerning things as a driver is you're waiting for these races to play out, but you do get a little bit concerned when you start to see the field in front of you start to pull away from you. So it's a catch-22, isn't it? It's just try and stay in touch with everyone around you, but not use up your equipment too much that, you don't want to kill yourself towards the end. So, yeah, it's that fine line of creating that balance, but there's nothing worse as a driver when you see the guys in front start to pull away and then you start getting that pressure from behind as well.
Race is sort of starting to stagnate. We have now hit lap 22, so window opens in another couple of laps here, but that'll be 33 laps to the end of the race. So split the difference somewhere around the late 20s is probably about where you'll see these guys come in. And up until that point in time, Matthew Bowler has got a very, very long next 10 laps or so ahead of him.
I think Anderson's pretty keen to get under here. He's looking racy. Just wants to get a little bit closer to his teammates up front. Or you can see he's just kind of putting the nose there. If he's close enough and gets a decent run out of this last turn, he'll think about it down this front straight, because that toe is very, very close, and that toe will be incredible for him. So it's just whether he'll take that opportunity or whether he's going to roll out of it and just look after it. He's gaining. No, he's going to split.
That's the problem, isn't it? If you get too aggressive, all of a sudden it disappears. But you might not get the spot and you might just go tumbling through the field. In the meantime, getting it done, still having a look. Well, Jordan Ross has gone to pick the pockets. Sean McNamara. So McNamara must have had a poor run off the final corner. Might have picked up the grass on the way out, and all of a sudden Jordan Ross skips through at turn number 1. So now he's one spot further forward and steps into 21st spot. As the Logitech replay will tell us. Have a look how much closer he is to Matt Bowler right here. And then late apex is maybe a wiggle at the corner. No, he's just offline the whole way. And car never tipped in at all there, Sam.
Yeah, it didn't take much, did it? It didn't look awful, but it was just enough to lose that little bit of momentum, and that pass happened. So yeah, I was trying to watch to see if it was going to be a big moment, but it really wasn't that big, but obviously enough. Oh, and inside. No, not quite. Got to be careful. That nose to tail contact, the last thing you need is a penalty.
Josh Anderson's lurking in the waters, and I can tell you Lockie's been walking up and down the pit lane. There's a driver whose race is over already, Sid Flock, and Lockie Mansell's got him sitting on standby at the moment.
Hi, Sebastian. Unlucky, mate. Obviously caught up in some carnage in the very early stages. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing, not gonna lie. It was pretty much just typical Phillip Island carnage. It was 3 wide or something coming through MG and all that section, and then I don't know who it was, someone went off and rejoined and made it 4 wide, and yeah, ended up taking about 300 cars with me in the grass. So yeah, it's pretty disappointing, but what can you do?
What was the extent of the damage to your car?
I had 4 minutes of meatball stuff and then 15 optional, so no safety car or anything would help me get back in.
So decided to call it a night, obviously, from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Just, you know, spot Bowl and Hayden and all of them, help them out a bit. Might go to bed early tonight, which would be nice. But
I mean, that's the good thing, isn't it? Obviously, it's not been your night, but it is a tight-knit community there at the Evolution Racing team, so you now do have the opportunity to help out your teammates for the rest of the night.
yeah, that's exactly right. We're all really good mates and, you know, like helping each other. And I'm sure there's been times when, you know, others have crashed out and helped me, so, you know, it's always nice to return the favour.
Unfortunately, no result for you tonight, Sebastian, but before we let you go, who gets it done for you? Who would you like to thank this evening?
Well, huge thanks to Evolution Racing team, all the support that they've given me and the whole team and our sponsor Logitech. This possibly might have been my last Pro Series race. It's still 50-50 as to whether that happens or not, but yeah, it's been good so far, and hopefully the team keeps going well tonight.
Alright, hopefully it's not the last time we see you in the Pro Series, because that's a sad way to end it. Unlucky, mate, and hopefully see you back on track soon.
Yeah, no worries. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast.
There we go. So one of our unlucky early retirements, gentlemen, Sebastian Flock, in fact, the first retirement of the race out on lap number 2.
Sam, man, you talked about it. It's about supporting the team now. His night's over, but his night's not over in terms of things with how he's helping out that team. You've got to have a team mindset. You can't do this on your own, and that's what it's about down there at ERT.
Yeah, great mindset. You know, it's so easy for someone to throw their toys out of the cot and, you know, spit and carry on. But for him to support his team like that, and like he said, you know, there's probably been times in the past where, you know, others have had bad nights and they've all stuck together, and it's about supporting each other regardless of how you're travelling. You know, whether you're up there battling for a win or if you're back in the pack, you know, if you've had a bad night, support your team the best you can, whether it be spotting, working out some pit strategies. There's so much that can play out, and really good sportsmanship. You know, bad night for Seb, but really
change
good
your second
event.
spot at the moment, and there's actually just been contact between Jared Philsell's, just keeping an eye on the gap. Sorry to cut you off, Sam, man. And now Jake Burton snuck through as well, so we'll have to get a replay of that one because that was mega. Madison Down was just starting to slip off the back end of Brady Myers. That might have been a bad run off the last corner. They go side by side down into turn 1. Down tries to turn in, tries to stay alongside. That could have ended so much worse with where that contact was.
Yeah, it's so tricky. Yeah, obviously Jared was enough. He got the job done, but Madison couldn't quite get tucked in behind him, and it could have been a lot worse. But you know, I don't think he'd be too concerned. You know, at the end of the day, the lost position there. His teammates grabbed him, but still a lot to play out, and obviously pit stops to think about too.
And an update coming our way, courtesy of the race stewards. Forznell Nabi's received himself a 5-second penalty to be added to his pit stop. For contact with car number 900, which is Andre Youssef. So that changes things. Well, Brady Myers was starting to try and skip clear. Now he's got to see whether or not Jared Philsell's going to turn a pace. And if you make this overtake too, Sam, man, that fuel-saving game goes out the window. Now you push on. There's no way you save fuel from this spot.
Yeah, I think they all pretty much got their mindset now of when they're pitting. So I think that's why we're starting to say, oh, a little bit of contact there coming into the hairpin. That shot him off onto the grass. There was a puff of smoke. Someone locked a tyre there, and it got a little bit ugly between them.
Yes, that was the penalty that we just saw. It was Forznell Nabi. That was why he got the 5-second penalty. So, getting excited for you as well. I was wound up in that for a second there, Sam.
I was too busy looking at times and watching the replay. It turned out to be the replay, so I apologise about that. I get too excited.
I'm excited to see what Jared Philsell's going to have for Brady Myers on this lap. 29.3 now for Brady Myers. Fastest lap of the race was a 28.2. So the cars are now fallen off over 1.1 seconds in terms of their lap time. So now it comes about traction. Who's looked after fronts, who's looked after rears, and who's keeping themselves alive and in contention. The key factor now is Madison Down's not necessarily sticking right with these guys, so whether or not he might have overworked the front tyres in terms of things as it currently stands. Brendan's actually making some time back to Jared Philsell here. This will be a few sort of thoughts going on. This might be one of the few occasions where you might see Madison Down attempt the undercut. Normally, it goes quite long in terms of things. Normally, it's Brady Myers that pulls the undercut down there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I get the thing that he's got in his favour that he's still just within a sniff there of Jake Burton, his teammate, for that draft. So, but you're right, he has dropped off a little bit, and probably put those fronts through a little bit of a heat cycle when he ran in a little bit wide at turn one, had that understeer moment, so it might just take him a little bit just to sort of calm down and get back into a rhythm. But obviously the tyres will be starting to get past their use-by date now, and they'll all be thinking about this pit stop soon. But I like the idea of him possibly pitting early. You don't want to do what everyone else does. If you can get that advantage on fresh tyres for a lap or so, that could be huge for him.
Mark, I think about it as well. We're now over 1.3 seconds off the pace. So in terms of things, the opportunity, I can tell you, James Scott, big clutch as he runs down here into Miller corner. We'll pull it up. Andrew Gilliam as well. Scott's picked Gilliam's pocket now and gotten ahead of him. Now, there's a few guys that are staying in this lead pack. We're looking at Jake Maloney a few moments ago. There's a car off at turn one. There's a couple of cars, I think, wide at turn two. My apologies to Josh Thomas. How's he ended up out there will be the question.
Yeah, whether he just got wide and touched the grass at a moment and then just steered and stayed out of the way. But let's check out this replay. Don't get too excited, Sandman. It's a replay. He had a moment. He's off onto the grass, and then he just had to be careful rejoining. So I think he's struggling with grip, and unfortunately it went a little bit pear-shaped for him.
Can I get Sandman, the psychology coach, to come and sit in with me when I'm doing racing? I tell you what, Philsell is starting to press on a little bit. I think Burton's struggling to hang on to him just a touch. I think he has brought that margin down just fractionally to the cars ahead. At this point in time, it's now down to 0.8 of a second, and Brady Myers was up to a second in terms of that gap out on track. So he is starting to make a little bit of time. That's where they're making it in terms of the sector time to sector time. Oh, he lost a little bit on that most recent lap to Brady Myers. So a little bit of to and fro. Sorry, my apologies. We're looking at the times relative to Brady Myers. So Brady Myers took time out of Jared Philsell back on lap 26. That's when he got the pass done. And then since then, it's been pace-wise all the way in the 94 and Jared Philsell. Ooh, first pit stop.
It stops. Here we go.
That makes sense, though. Josh Thomas just off the road, just put the tyres through an extreme amount of heat at the moment that he had. First car in the pit lane, kind of forced down this route, not through wanting to do it.
Yeah, I think his tyres, well, the attitude looked like the tyres were pretty second-hand, so he'd be breathing a sigh of relief. You feel like Superman when you come out now with 4 fresh tyres, so he'd be loving now that those fresh set, and you can just push on. And like you said, the field spread and the time advantage that you get with that fresh bit of rubber, he'd be enjoying the first couple of laps and hoping that these guys that he was racing with stay out a little bit longer. And obviously, he's got a bit of ground to make up with that incident that he had. But yeah, he'll be feeling good now with those fresh set of boots.
Wondering, is Madison Down actually starting to lose touch with the cars up ahead? Whether or not that he's got damage on the front splitter, he's struggling. The car looks relatively clean at that front right corner of the car. It doesn't look like it might be too performance impacting, but might be those tyres he's struggling with as he starts to fall back a little bit. James Scott is right well locked up underneath his rear wing. Might be an opportunity when they get down to Miller corner this time by. Don't forget these guys, one of the longest runs they're likely to do. 2 compulsory pit stops. They checked one off all all the way back at the end of lap number 4, and now James Scott is going to have a go to the inside, gets alongside. They're even. The last time these two guys were alongside, there was drama. There's a wiggle from Scott. There's more drama, and he gets a nudge from Madison down, but it was as he walked it onto the power, the car walked sideways, gets the job done. Madison down after being in second a couple laps ago. He's now down to 5th.
Yeah, it looks like he struggled a little bit, doesn't it? Like you can see that the pace that Scott had, and it was almost a riding on the wall scenario where he was going to have that lunge, and he got the job done. So, yeah, I think what you were touching on about as far as, maybe seeing him dive into the lane, you think it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later.
Hit him! Contact, there is contact at MG, and now Downs all over the place. Wiggles, he's now lost 2 more spots on top of that, and I wonder whether or not Phillip's trying to redress. They slot back in, no one dives the lane out of this group. Now it's going to be Marcelo Rivera who's underneath the rear wing of Madison Down. Last season's champion goes tumbling through the order after contact in a horrid lap at the island.
Yeah, I'd be thinking about a pit stop now. I don't think he's entirely happy with that car, and now obviously got that little bit of damage. Marcelo Rivera trying to have a look up the inside, doesn't quite get the job done, but yeah, Down struggling. I think if I was him, if they're in that window, to maybe dive in and get those fresh set of tyres.
This makes that second stint so much longer. It's a real risk versus reward. And the other side of the coin is, what is the traffic situation going to look like? It's a fair fuel fill. He might come out in just a wheel of traffic, and that might really make his night worse. I think he's stuck. He might be stuck. He might have to stay here. So this is the run as they come up and over Lukey Heights and down in, and Gilliam was a late lunge.
Ooh.
I think he was far enough up. I think he's not going to cop too much for that.
That's a late dive, though. Yeah, we'll leave that to the stewards.
Gee, you don't want to be a steward at all, Sam, man. You are so happy and comfortable up here.
Absolutely. You couldn't pay me enough, I don't think.
There's air conditioning, there's snacks when you want them, and you get to have a great race all unfolding in front of you with no responsibilities, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh, word, Lockie, take us away. Who do you think? I think Down's coming in. Right? He's shadowed. Oh, he's still not coming in. No one's going in. Rivera's going to come in. Rivera's the first car to the lane out of the lead bunch. How long are we thinking for this stop? He was right out and on the limit. Oh, he's on the limit of a penalty too, gets away from it. So that'll trigger the first of the stops out of the lead bunch. And there's a couple of cars. I thought we saw Bo Albert. Who are the other drivers that have been thus far, though?
Yeah, so Bo Albert's done a stop. Also, Teo Sorono did one recently. Josh Thomas we saw coming in as well. And Andre Youssef a few laps ago. But the thing is, and Sandman touched on it before, is the longer you go in this first stint, the shorter you have to make the tyres last in the second stint. So, yes, it might be a bit of pain now, but it minimises the pain that you'll suffer towards the back end of the race. And if we get late safety cars and it potentially becomes a 5 or 6 lap dash to the finish line, a bit like what we saw in the previous round at Sebring, then you want tyres that are as fresh as possible.
Last lap for Brady Myers was a 29.616, which still was a touch faster, 2/10 a second faster. So was Burton, so was James Scott. They were all in the 29.4s, but 1.2 seconds effectively fall off from their fastest laps of the race thus far. It's into the mid to late 29s for most of the fielders that currently stand. Slow lap for Robbie Gibbs, all the way down in the 12th spot was at 30.1, so he's the first of the 30s. And now there's an issue for Brady Baldwin as well, who's just put a call into race control.
Oh, got close through there. Still giving each other room there. Oh, it's hold your breath stuff. We saw how crucial it is just where it's so easy to lock a brake and take a dive in here, but everyone's giving each other plenty of room. But fast part of the racetrack to have a little bit of door handle to door handle, Robin.
Yeah, now he's going to try and settle back down in as Brady Baldwin, making his series debut in his own car this series. He's driven as a co-driver before, but this is his first time qualifying for the main series. It's Connor Nixon that's ahead of him as they get down on and in here. Gets to the inside, and Nixon, there was enough space left there. Huh? Door to door, that one's all good.
Don't know if it's over yet, though. They get through here nice. Oh,
leaning on each other at the apex. Yeah.
Yeah. They got away with it, though. It's tricky, isn't it? You got two cars that are trying to turn in, and as soon as you start to lock guards like that, it makes it all that little bit difficult. But thankfully, they all stayed on the black stuff and were able to push on.
Well, Lockie Mansell, it's all kicking off down where you're standing at the moment. Pit lane's busy.
It sure is, and understandably, because they're having to put a lot more fuel in on this occasion. The pit stops in terms of stationary time are a lot longer. We're saying that the average stop length is anywhere between 28 and 30 seconds. Marcello Rivera, who came in a couple of laps ago, his stop was 28.1 seconds is the stationary time. We've also had pit stops from Bo Albert, Matthew Bowler, Damien Johnston, Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble, Thomas Freeman and Colin Nixon.
Marcelo Rivera's the car that I want to keep half an eye on. Who's coming to the lane this time by? There's a ton of cars that are now, I think, starting to think about those pit stops. No, all the guys up the front. Brady Myers has kicked on. Forza El Nabi's going to come into the pit lane as we currently speak. And there they all come. Is that some of the Vermilion cars? It is in the background. And I think it was Hayden Velvet as well that's now come in. So
Good news for Marcello Rivera is that he's come out in clear track, so he's able to absolutely maximise the performance of that fresh set of tyres. And that should, you would think, probably help him leapfrog a few positions after this pit stop cycle completes itself.
yeah, the next driver on the road will be Michael Whiting for him, so he's about 3 or 4 seconds up the road. But remember, Whiting still to make that stop. 28.520, that time by for Marcelo Rivera. Rewarded our race leaders to 29.5, so he's just taken a second out of everyone up front. 1.1 out of Josh Anderson and Jared Philsell. So Philsell finally not faster than Brady Myers, but the problem for Philsell now is he's actually got quite close in terms of things. Have a look at that margin on that lap for Marcelo Rivera. 1.1 seconds out of the guys up the pointy end of things. He is absolutely cracking on, and he needs to if he's going to make this work. There's a few more cars that are going to start to vary their strategy. It's the Lobs Esports boys. We're going to bring 2 of their cars to the lane. I think this might be exploratory. They've split strategy for their teaming.
Indeed, so Dylan Run, Luke Rosella, Rick Kuznetsov and Robert Gibbs, our championship leader, all coming down pit lane at the moment.
Now they're going to try and settle their way down on an end as we zero in on this battle between Josh Anderson and Andrew Gilliam. And Gilliam is going to have to step to the side because here comes Josh Anderson, parks it up at Miller Corner. Not quite got the job done. Now he'll complete the overtake. So Gilliam slots 1 spot further back, and that's important for Josh Anderson. Late in this pit stop cycle, you want to have that fresh air on the nose, and if you can push out and extend a margin, that might trigger Gilliam coming to the lane this time.
Yeah, and the fact that he might have a little bit of tyre life in him too, the best time to use it now is just burn it up. You know you're going to be pitting soon, so if you've got a little bit of life in that rubber, use it up. Use up whatever you got because you don't need to save it towards the end. So I think these guys will have to start thinking about pit stops soon. I think the top 3 with Myers, Philsell and Burton, they've got that little bit of margin, so they can probably afford to go that little bit longer than everyone else. But the fact that they probably haven't hit the lane yet, they'll probably start thinking about everyone behind them who has.
So they're all going to continue on, and Madison Down is going to come to the lane, and we're getting an uptake coming from race control. Lockie Mansell about Andrew Gilliam.
Yeah, so that contact with Madison Down at MG Corner a few laps ago, he's going to cop a 5-second penalty. Also, just a bit of housekeeping as well. So Bo Albert and Forza El Nabi both had 5-second penalties for incidents earlier in the race. They had the option to serve that 5-second penalty during their pit stop. However, neither of them have done that, so they'll have 5 seconds added onto their time at the end of the race. So it'll be interesting for Andrew Gilliam to see if he elects to serve out that penalty during the pit stop or if it gets added onto his race time. Keep an eye on that one, as he still gets to take his final pit stop.
I suppose that probably comes to decision making on that one, Sam. It comes back to whether or not you think there's going to be a safety car. Because if there's going to be one, there probably would have been one by now. And if there's not going to be another safety car, well, you want to maintain that track position, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, my personal opinion, I'd like to see any pit stop or any penalties that you see receive in the race that you actually do it in the lane. Obviously, if you're not going to make the lane again, then obviously it gets added to the end. But you're right, you're in danger of a safety car. But have a look at the pace here at Jared Philsell's got. He's really harassing the back of Myers. I think, yep, and Myers has decided to dart in. So he was struggling with his rubber. He can see that pressure from Jared, and the best time for him to do is bite. Now, geez, that was a quick run to the line.
But Jake Burton's going to continue on with this one as well. So Brady Myers has led every lap of the motor race thus far. Now he will cede that one over Jared Philsell, who chalks up his first lap led of the night after starting on pole position. And now what's Jake Burton got from him as well, because Philsell very wide at the apex. Now the southern loop. Now they'll try and get the power down, and Jake Burton might have a crack at him here.
Yeah, it's risk versus reward. He's got pace. Well, think about a dive. I know Jared will be all over it for the inside, but man, the last thing you do is want to make a mistake when you're this close to a pit stop. But a little bit surprised that Madison Down didn't maybe pit a lap or two earlier, being that he's in this time. So, yeah, I think that could benefit him, just that one lap extra, just to get that run on fresh rubber. But yeah, good little battle between Burton and Philsell as we can see those guys leaving the lane now.
Something's just happened to the 053 and Hayden Bell as well. So race control will have something further to have a look into. I think this will trigger pit stops. This will not, no one will hang around on this one. So Madison Down has come out behind Luke Rosella.
Yeah, what's happened there?
That's a phenomenal loss of position. As Rosella just massively underfilled that car. And the leaders are in.
Yeah. Well, the other thing as well, right, is that Marcello Rivera, after all this, has emerged in what will effectively be P1. He's ahead of Brady Myers. So the undercut strategy has paid off massively for Marcello Rivera. There he is. There are your race leaders, Marcello Rivera ahead of Brady Myers. So this is effectively now the contest for the race lead between these two cars.
Yeah, and Brady Myers won't like to see that one. That has changed the race scenario quite massively. Still a fair bit of space on track, and then the car that's in behind these guys as well, quite critical. And Luke Rosella's got Down going down the inside of MG, so they've actually fallen a fair way off that lead pack as well. And Down was one of the earliest drivers to get into the pit lane as well.
Oh, and Burton's got the job done. He's got the job done. So he's got a massive advantage there. But look how close it's going to be. Oh, into the fastest corner, coming in there, into the braking zone. They've managed to give each other a bit of room. But, man, massive effort there from Jake Burton. Really good job to get the job done. So, man, it's all unfolding with 20 laps to go here for round 2 in the Logitech Series at Phillip Island.
And James Scott was just boxed in there, had nowhere that he really could go on. That was sort of his only option. And that changes things in terms of what the race now looks like. Richard Hampstead and Kurt Stenberg have gone very long, and both of them off the road. No, it was just Hampstead off the road at Lukey Heights. So he's gone a lot longer than he possibly needed to. Kurt Stenberg will get the race lead.
He's got to be in. He's struggling with grip. Yeah, there he goes.
But he'll now have the freshest tyres in the field for the run to the flag. And that starts to change things. The last driver to take their pit stop is 40. Ian Ford in the 115 for the ERC outfit. But right now, Jake Burton leads the way. My word.
He's done a good job. It all started when he got that, when there was obviously Philsell and Down had that little swap of positions, and that really brought Jake into the fold of it. And then we saw how racy he was just come to the pits, and you know, he was right up there, tucked in behind Jared, got the job done in pit lane, and now he's holding his own. So really good job by Jake Burton, but can he hold on?
Psychological impact of a pre-race interview. You won't be happy if you're the third of the TCR cars. Well, now he leads the way.
He'll be asking for those pep talks every week now.
In terms of things, Sandman, though, the two guys I think in the field that wear their heart on the sleeve at the front end, they don't get on. The lot of esports guys and the CCR guys don't get along a lot. But Jake Burton is not a fan of Jared Philsell in particular, and these two on the road will leave each other no quarter. There will be no room given, there will be no holds barred, and this is going to be a scrap for the ages, I think, over what remains of this motor race. 19 laps now left to go.
Keep in mind as well that these are two of the drivers who came out of the opening round at Sebring. Stone Muddles broke with no points, either of them, so both of them desperately need a healthy tally tonight.
Probably worthwhile. I was just going to say, thank you very much, Jay Kennedy behind the screen. Probably a very good opportunity to cross to the live points. Where does that put these two boys in terms of things? Well, the race wins worth 200 points, so just outside your top 15 will put Jake Burton tied with Scott Gamble as it currently stands in terms of things, and Phil Self wouldn't even put him on the radar. If you have a look, 15th spot, Madison Down, he did score points in that first round, and that was the difference. The other driver who scored points was Ethan Greek. Oh, have a look at Phil Self right out there, wrapping on the rear bumper. At this rate, I am absolutely going to have to take up Morse code.
Yeah, and Jared will be enjoying this. I think he likes to put that little bit of bumper pressure on anyone. Doesn't matter who it is. You know, it's all these drivers. It's the old adage of when you put the helmet on, you know, you don't really care who's around you. The red mist happens, and it's the same with these guys when they jump in simulators. So, but I think Jared will be enjoying the fact that he's trying to put this pressure on Jake Burton, and it's a really good battle. What they need to do is just be careful that they don't trip over themselves, because there's quite a few cars behind them that are quite keen to be part of this battle as well.
Keep in mind as well, guys, that these are the two drivers who each won a race at Phillip Island last year when we had the twin race format. So continuing their strong form from Phillip Island 2023 to Phillip Island 2024.
Yep, and something I'll put in the fans' mind as well, sitting out there at the moment, if you're watching along, have a look through, potentially have a think about who's jumped the most spots. We might look to get that graphic back up on screen. Couple days time, there'll be 5 drivers listed over on the Logitech Pro Invitational Facebook page for your driver of the day. Round number 1 is Kurt Stenberg, who led a lap just before. But Thomas Freeman has had a really, really strong week thus far. Most spots gained as it currently stands. 9-5 Sim Sports drivers gaining a ton of spots. 3 drivers in that top 5. And Brady Baldwin's gained 9 spots as well, so having a reasonable race, although he's got boxed about the ears in the last 5 laps or so, a couple of calls to race control just before that pit stop cycle. Think about your driver of the day, ladies and gents. Is there anyone you're following along at home? Let us know. Who are you a big, big fan of? I'm a big, big fan of Stoushes, and I think we're going to get one here.
There's still a long way for this to play out, but I touched on before, they're both very racy, but they need to look after their gear too. You know, you don't want to get towards the end of this race and have nothing to battle with. So they are putting pressure on each other. It's really good to watch, and makes me thankful that I'm in the commentary box and not sitting in one of these team boxes and trying to guide these drivers throughout the rest of this race.
Jared Fuelcell's getting excellent exits from some of the slower corners, but where Jake Burton seems to have a bit of an edge at the moment is under brakes, and you can see it coming into Miller corner each lap, but he's just able to hold his ground when they get to the braking zone.
Uh-oh. Thought he was going to have a dive there, Phil Sell, but obviously thought better of it.
Think about Dylan Rudd's position in all of this as well, as he currently sits 7th on the racetrack, just overtaken Marcelo Rivera on this lap. And if he can buy his way a fraction more forward towards teammate James Scott, potentially buy onto the back end of that battle pack and potentially pick up a couple spots late on in the piece, that could be championship lead for Dylan Rudd. Robbie Gibbs is having another quiet night at the office, sitting away in 14th, gained 4 spots. So there's points there for him as well.
A little bit of housekeeping as well. So we were speculating about whether or not Andrew Gilliam would serve out that 5-second penalty during his pit stop. I can confirm that yes, indeed, he did serve out that penalty during the pit stop, and that's why he's fallen back to 12th position.
Just got a little bit of clear air as well, which isn't the worst possible thing. The problem is, you've got to make sure you've got the fuel to cover running in free air is the problem. So for a few of these drivers, they might underfuel the car a fraction. For the run home, fuel math is never an easy thing.
Marcello Rivera was thrown with that early pit stop, going for the aggressive undercut strategy, but now this is the stage of the race where he paid the invoice for that decision. His lap time's slower than the cars that he's battling with, and he's just lost his spots to Dylan Rudd.
James Scott, 28.6.
Oh, here he goes.
29.1 for Anderson. Down makes contact. So remember, it was Marcelo Rivera. No, it wasn't. Sorry, my apologies. It was Gilliam who made that contact with Madison Down that triggered that 4 more spots. So now Madison Down's getting the elbows back out. He's motivated. And an ailing Rivera will make a very, very prime, tasty target for the 2024 champion. Right on the rear bumper. He thought about covering it, did Rivera, opted not to. Now he's going to back out of that one and follow Madison down through. But now Down's going to skip clear as much as he possibly can. Has to stick with Dylan Rudd for his race and trying to recover that one. Moves back up inside of 8th place. Josh Anderson, I think, is about to come under pressure from James Scott as well.
Oh, it's hard to look away from this lead battle, isn't it? There's so many cars in it, and now they're bringing another 3 cars into the fold as well. So we're going to blink in a moment, and then there's going to be 6 cars that are going to be fighting over each other just to get the job done here. But regardless of where you look up and down the field, so many great battles. But man, it's so hard to look away from this one.
Just sort of keeping half an eye a little bit further back. I was actually just seeing Kurt Hamstead. Richard Hamstead and Kurt Stenberg as I mix the 2 names together. Maybe that. I wish they could partner each other up for the Bathurst 1000. That'd be an interesting combination to see.
They have. No, they haven't. It's Jake Maloney that Richard Hamstead's driven with in the past. Of course, that's not allowed in the Logitech G Pro Invitational E-Series this year because in the endurance races, your co-driver must be a non-regular competitor in the series.
And must live in Australia and New Zealand as it currently stands. So Shane Van Gisbergen. Time now. It's a change for the race lead. Phil Sells sick of waiting. Wraps out a few bits of Morse code. Puts some pressure on Jake Burton. And now he's got the race lead. And Brady Myers has led the bulk of the first part of this race. Starts to look ahead at these guys and say, boys, I'm coming. You might have the race lead for now. And Phil Sell's going to get harassed. I reckon he might have another crack at him here. He's coming back at him is Jake Burton. Rolls down a little bit. He might be in a fuel hole. He might have to save fuel. And Phil Sell might be looking at that and going, this might be my opportunity.
Yeah, well, we touched on that he got the job done in the pit lane, so I think maybe he did probably feel maybe just went a little bit short to probably get the position. Who knows?
25.3 seconds there, Lockie.
Yeah, so I can tell you that the fuel stop for Jake Burton was about a second quicker than the fuel stop for Jared Phil Sells. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jake Burton has short-filled that car slightly to get some track position.
You can say right now, under 15 laps to home, that it's working out, but he's got to make sure he crosses that line. It might be the smell of an oily rag, but sometimes that's all you need in sim racing to get back to the line, to take the race victory. Lap traffic might even be a part of this one as well. I think that's Michael Taliancic's down the road.
The benefit Burton's got now is that if Phil Sell's got in front of him, he now's got that opportunity to use that draft and try to save whatever fuel that he may have gone short on in that stop. So it's not over. He just needs to stay in touch. And then, of course, when he gets to that magic fuel number where he knows he can get home, and he's just got to make sure there's a little bit of tyre that he can put that pressure on Phil Sell. But I think Phil Sell will obviously be aware of that difference with the fuel. And, he'll be battling as hard as he can. And he'd want Burton to use up as much fuel as he's got in the tank too.
And just getting a word in as well, Lockie, I think you've got the numbers from pit lane just come across to us. I'm hearing we might be good on fuel.
Yeah, so we're hearing from pit lane that most people should be okay as far as fuel goes to get to the end. So that means it's pretty much a flat-out sprint race from here through to the checkered flag.
Maybe it was just a little bit more accurate the pit box then, Jake Burton. And that's where he got the job done. In terms of things, it doesn't take much. It does not take much to lose a little bit of time, but it's the guys that are in behind these guys at the moment that we're keeping half an eye on. And James Scott will be looking forward at Josh Anderson and thinking he's probably a little bit vulnerable, but Maloney looks vulnerable as well. Then there's this battle pack a little bit deeper in the field. And this one's not quite over as it currently stands. And Sean McNamara will be attacking the ailing Bo Albert. Remember, he came in for a very, very early stop, and Matt Bowler's in behind these guys as Wayne Burke and Jordan Ross for company. So Tell you what, Ross looked good earlier in that race too, Sam, man, with that move as well. So he's certainly got the elbows out and feeling comfortable as it currently stands.
Yeah, I've just noticed the track change too. A little bit of cloud cover, so they'd be obviously appreciating that. Curious about, we'll just talk about there now, the track conditions now. So dipping down a little bit, cooler than what we had at the start. So the drivers will be very handy and very happy about that, because obviously that helps with tyre life as this race goes on with 12 to go.
Oh, Moore's just come in. 5-second post-race penalty with no pit stops left for the night. Josh Anderson gets himself one for contact with Dylan Rudd.
So that'll push him at the moment as things stand from 5th back to 9th.
Is that pre or post-stop though? That was pre-stop, I think. And Logitech replay is going to tell us the story.
Bump and run. Bump and run on the exit of Miller Corner.
Oh, geez, it's close.
You know what? If he had just braked out of
Yeah.
the throttle there and he'd let Dylan run back past, he probably would have got away without that penalty.
Yeah, that's tricky, isn't it? Yeah, you're right though. Yeah, if he had to crack the throttle, and given, because they were side by side anyway, so if he'd just given up that one car length and tucked in behind, it'd be a different story. But easier said than done when you look back. You know, you don't have a crystal ball at the time, and unfortunately, he's got that penalty.
Well, Dylan Rudd's now dropped off the back of our top 6, and that might be part of the reason why. Although I thought he was, I did think that might have been just a touch before the pit lane. Anyway, now it's going to be diving down the inside. So Josh Anderson might have just found out he's got that 5-second post-race penalty. Well, and now he's going to start to get aggressive. He's got to clear the guys ahead of him. Gets by Jake Maloney, and Maloney might have started to be a little bit slower in terms of things. James Scott is coming, lurks in the background. And again, offensive, defense. Defense is a good offense. Here comes the response, though, from Jake Burton, right up and underneath the rear wing. Thought about it at turn 1, but backed out. Not quite done just yet. And it's a long, long run this to the flag. Tyre wear will be a factor, and I wonder whether or not Phil still wanted to lead, so he had the best rubber.
You know, one driver who's loving this is Brady Myers. He can see that these two are battling in front of him, and it won't take much for these two to trip over each other, just maybe bowl a little wide, and he's going to be gifted the lead. So, and what he's saying too is that these guys are battling. They're probably putting that little bit of pressure onto their tyres and probably using them a little harder than they'd want. And if he's back there just looking after him, I think he could be just licking his lips, just waiting for his time.
Josh Anderson, now that he's got clear as well, can he come surging up to this front pack as well? Only now 1.6 off the rear end of Brady Myers will be an option late on in this piece. We're now underneath 10 laps to go. It's 10 laps to go at the start of the lap. It would have been 44 kilometres to go, and this time by it's going to be about 40. So in the final stanza of the race from Phillip Island, who's going to stand up and be counted later on in the race? Brady Myers led it so much of that first stanza, and now he's going to have to be the driver that gets the overtaking done. In the meantime, battle way outside, just outside the top 20. John Ross has got through on Matt Bowler by the look of things. Indeed, he's got past Wayne Burke and Matt Bowler on this lap, so starting to get the elbows out is Jordan Ross. We're just talking about that, so a couple spots more gain. We'll be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. A tasty little battle too with these guys just giving them their all. So, yeah, we say it all the time, don't we? It doesn't matter if you're racing for first or 21st. It's always a good battle throughout the field.
Now coming down to the inside, Wayne Burke will get alongside Synergy Sim Racing plays. Evolution Racing team pulls alongside of Matthew Bowler on the run between 1 and 2. Now he'll look for the crisscross. Bowler will have to park him up at the apex, looking for the squarer drive off now. Is Wayne Burke, does get good drive off of the southern loop, but now he's a fraction too far back. Might pull out and have another go at him when they get down to Miller Corner down here, pulls out of the draft, gets to the inside, late on the brakes, very, very late on the brakes, and balls are wide, doesn't quite pull it up, goes for one spot, loses two.
Oh, that was heartbreak for him. He tried to throw it in there, but just couldn't quite get it pulled up. But we talk about it. You know, it didn't take much for him to take that fight, but unfortunately just went a little bit too big.
I wonder whether or not he went for a gear and it didn't take as well in the middle of that, because engine braking so much of the performance of these cars. So now we're looking at Jake Burton, having a look back once more at Jared Philsell. He's got so much overspeed when but he doesn't pull it out so late in the run.
I think the pace that he had, he could have probably decided to stick a nose there, but he was quite content just to sit. And now he's got his teammate, Brady Myers, who's right in the fold. Absolutely nothing. What are we? Less than half a second covering the top three here. So Brady is right there. I said to you a couple of laps ago that he's sitting there just licking his lips, just seeing how this unfolds. And no doubt there'd be some communication between the two TTR teammates. And of course, talk about the next two that are behind him. All of the TTR cars there battling for second, third, fourth and fifth. So no doubt they'll be on the comms between each other, just, you know, I guess working out a bit of a plan of attack of how they get past Jared Philsell.
We've always talked about it, and the mentality over at Trans-Tasman Racing. Tail end of last season, they were protecting Madison down. That's about the only time Madison says that it's really come down to team orders. Other than that, they all love racing so much that they don't want to play the team game. They want to beat each other on track, and they want to do it fair and square. At the moment, Brady Myers looks like he has got so much pace in this 22 machine. What would a race win from Phillip Island mean to him after he did score that many points? That's Rude Rosella! And that might be a blown engine, and he's trying to get back to the pit lane. Remember, he did this last round as well. He triggered the first of all those safety cars.
I think it's in a good spot, though. I can't see him bringing out a safety car for that one. It is pretty much out of harm's way, so I think they're going to let this field battle on. But, man, oh, man, another trend we're starting to see with a lot of these engines going.
Yeah, well, Luke Rosell had blown engines 2 rounds in a row, and Griffin Garden internet problems 2 rounds in a row.
Oh. Downshift, maybe.
Downshift right there. Engine gone.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a drop for the race lead, by the way, at the moment, because this is critical. This is for the race lead just prior to the safety car coming out if we're going to get one. Burton elbows Jared Philsell at the apex of Miller Corner, gets the lead back, makes himself vulnerable to Brady Myers, who might look for a switchback. It's not quite on. And with a safety car in the offering, you want to lead the race right now, because if you come into the lane for tyres, you'll have 7 laps to go. The lap times have already fallen off by a second over the course of this. We're still keeping an eye on the 55 car. Will he be cleared to tow from where he's parked up at the moment? There they go, down through MG. And Brady Myers has got to have a crack.
Now, there was a puff of smoke with that battle between Burton and Philsell. I wonder if the cars looked really clean, though, so I don't know that there was a touch, but, man, it was close. Looked like a little bit of puff of smoke, whether they were just both hard on the brakes and just having a red-hot go, but look at the margin that Burton's been able to open up, and now Myers is putting that pressure on Philsell.
Well, maybe it was tyre saving. Maybe it was just on Jared Philsell's rear bumper, just saying, hey, mate, if you want to hang on to this spot, you've got to push on. And what that's done is it might have hurt Philsell's tyres a lot. Remember last time by, they elbowed. This is the replay on the run down to Miller Corner. This is how Jake Burton set it up. Gets to the inside. Hurt there might be a safety car coming. And there was contact.
Yeah, I think Stewart's a look at that.
Do you reckon they might redress it? Here comes Brady Myers! So slap his elbow down the way, make it 2 in a row. Brady Myers makes contact with Jared Philsell. Well, and the stewards after last round got more on their plate than they bargained for. Is that bumper run number 2? We've got to wait for the reply. What's it going to be called? There's not been much chatter about it, I tell you what, on the in-race radio. There's been no talk whatsoever. And the safety car is not coming either. So now this is all-out sprint to the finish. We are 6 laps to go. This time, though, it'll come down to 5. And Philsell nearly puts a 94 Holden Commodore-sized hole in Brady Myers' rear bumper. It's exploded. It didn't take much. It took a match. And the match was Luke Rosella's blown engine. And all of a sudden, Phillip Island has erupted into an absolute firestorm.
Yeah, well, Jared's definitely got his work cut out for him now that he's obviously lost that position to Burton, but now he just needs to make sure that he can stay in touch with Myers. Yeah, I guess we just sort of wait and see, but whether there's going to be an outcome between that contact with Burton and Philsell, I don't know. I'll leave it up to them. Thank goodness I'm just in the commentary box, but a good little battle shaping up, but Philsell just needs to make sure that he stays in touch. But look at that gap. It's almost nearly a second between Burton and Myers.
It's one thing to sit here in the commentary box and talk about it. It's another thing to have those words mean something out on the racing track, and a penalty is what that might mean. By the way, Madison Down, I was just about to start talking about this. That's mind reading extraordinaire by the producer yet again tonight, as Down has responded in the last couple laps and really started to get to Dylan Rudd. And now James Scott, he might be in with a shout as well. What do Maloney, what do Anderson look like in terms of their closest to the leaders? Well, Anderson's coming at them. But
keep in mind, though, he's got that 5-second penalty hanging over his head.
Could you imagine if he gets up here and loses the cat amongst the pigeons?
Well, what if he gets up there and starts to put pressure on Philsell, and then, you know, obviously he's got that little bit of a penalty that he has to serve, and if he just plays a bit of a blocker, you know, that could be a bit of a headache for Philsell.
This is touring car racing. This is Australia's best and brightest. At one of the best tracks on the service. And the best machinery Australia has to offer as it currently stands. And boy, they've taken it to the limit. They've taken it a fraction beyond, and they've still all managed to walk away to tell the tale. One race in, it was drama. There was a ton of drivers without points. Race number 2, it's just been... It's sprint racing, but it's over a time burning. And this has just been phenomenal. I'm so far enjoying this in this series, I tell you what.
And Down doing his absolute best here to try and get the job done, but he knows he's running out of time with 4 laps to go. He does have that little bit of pace on board, but obviously very mindful that he doesn't want to get in a position where he could find himself with a late race penalty, because that could be disastrous. We touched on the drama from round number 1, and now he's got his hands full in the dying laps.
He's got to be clean, he's got to be concise about this. He's got points on the board compared to the drivers that are currently around him. He'll have a go at Dylan. There is no doubt about that. He thought about it right there. He forced Dylan to cover him. Rudd swings it to the inside, blocks as they come over into MG. Now it's to the last corner, and Madison Down is a lot closer than he has been up until this point in time. But now Dylan Rudd, when he needs it, gets reasonable drive off the second to last corner, builds some margin, builds some margin, builds some margin. He's got good drive yet again off that last corner, but now it starts to equalise. Here comes the toe. Defending champion against driver, really looking to make a name of himself, parks it on the middle of the road, forces Madison Down to go the long way round. Down gets up and alongside, backs out of it, now looks for the rotation at the mid-corner. Will he have a go at the southern loop? This is about setting him up. Now he gets to his outside, just says, mate, if you're going to park it up on the apex, you've got to be clean about it. He'll look to rotate around, tries to get the power down. Madison Down still a touch too far back. Will he have a go when they get down here to Miller? And what's going on up at the front, because it's all started to stabilise, and Brady Myers coming back at the leaders. Dare we look away from Madison Down having a go? Won't be this time, fellas. Brady Myers is starting to come back at Jake Burton.
Yeah, he's definitely got the pressure there, but Down knows that, you know, he has to get the job done, running out of time, but got the pace. But yeah, you touched on it. Here comes Myers, putting pressure on his own teammate, Jake Burton. They're now starting to leave Jared Philsell behind, and we touched on it famously that TTR don't have those team orders. These guys are free to race. I guess the only team order, like every team, is just don't take each other out of the equation. So good to see that they're letting them race, but it's going to really come down to these last couple of laps.
Well, the benefit is now we can look at both battles on both screens. Up at the front, 2 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. We're now under 10 kilometres worth of racing left to go. And Brady Myers has saved something. He's left something in the tank at 2 to go. The problem is, surely they won't fight it too much. It'll present an opportunity to Jared Philsell as he starts to fall off and fall further off. And how close is Madison Down? He's there, but he's not got an overlap this time by. Very, very strong through turn number 1 is Madison Down. They'll get to the southern loop. Not quite as close up as he was last time by. Now he gets right to the bumper. Very, very weak at the apex of the southern loop is Dylan Rudd, but there's no way by. And now Puts the run down to Miller. Through Stoner. Is he going to have to go? Surely pulls out. Lock up from Jake Burton at the head of the field. So they're ailing, and now it's going to be a cover from Dylan Rudd as well. Looks to the outside. Madison down. Now he'll look for a switchback. Was looking for the drive off. Look how Dylan Rudd parked it on the apex. Had to, because he was looking for the crisscross. Didn't quite get it. And there'll be one more lap to go. There is only going to be 2 more times through. Lukey hides through MG, through the final corner and the run to the line. Then there'll be one more. And running out of time at the front. Running out of time back here.
He's doing everything right to sort of hold Madison down up as much as he can. He's putting in the car the right direction. Oh, it's not going to be over there. He has a look. No, can't quite get it done. Oh, the moving around the field. Sorry, that down is putting the pressure on. You can see the car moving around under brakes. He's not giving up, like you said, going into the final lap.
4.45 kilometres. Has Brady Myers got anything left to hold? White flag signals 1 more lap to go from Phillip Island down to the southern part of Australia. A storied racetrack. And Brady Myers has tried to write his story here tonight, but Jake Burton has control. What has Madison Down got to say? They're side by side at the apex at turn 1. Doing corner. The sign for it. Madison Down gets there. Remember, he's stronger than Rudd through turn 2. Gets to the southern loop. He's got the nose ahead. Dylan Rudd defended. He put the blockers up. He put everything he possibly could to put on a defensive masterclass, and he's been pipped at the last.
Absolutely brilliant battle. Got the job done. He still has to defend, though, because he can see that it's not over. A little bit of pressure to the back, a little bit of a lock up the tail. They're going to keep on going with it. Great little battle. But we check up front. It's Jake Burton, Brady Myers. They are not giving an inch into the final lap. Look at them go. The pressure between teammates is immense.
And now we're under half a lap left to run. There'll be under 2Ks left to run in just a few moments to the crest of the hill. Through MG. When they break down here, that might be the last opportunity. Brady Myers saved something. He left something in the tank, but he's going to run out of laps to do it. And Jake Burton from 5th on the grid. It was Brady Myers who led as they got down to turn number 1. But Jake Burton pulled a strategy master stroke. He got it all done. He pit on the right lap. He ticked all of the boxes all race long. Saved as much fuel as he needed to. And the driver of the number 8 gets the win from Phillip Island. TTR 1-2. Jared Philsell 3. Oh, boys, give me that back again. That was a blast a minute to the line. Madison Down picks up that spot on the last lap as well. And look at them all. They're still fighting deeper in the field as well. Scott Gamble covers off. Jacob O'Reilly.
Oh, how lucky was he? How did he pull that up on the grass?
It's not done yet because here comes Freeman as well. And Freeman's got by. Jacob O'Reilly will have another crack, but you get the feeling it's too much to ask. The overspeed when they get to the line's not high enough, and he'll have to settle for 27th. Oh no, Freeman's out of fuel! Freeman's out of fuel!
He pips him at the line. They were cutting it close. Unbelievable finish. I thought that was going to be a lot worse than speaking about out of fuel. It looks like Burton may be. So he's had just enough to take the win.
And there's a number of drivers that are out of fuel. Just about all of them. Oh my word.
How good was that, Scott? That was incredible.
My Lord, when they come to Phillip Island, they say how fast, how flowing. It's about tyres. It's about looking after everything you've got. And you've got to be clean and concise in that pit lane. And Jake Burton was there tonight. 0.3 of a second was all that it mattered to Brady Myers. How good was that start? When we look back 57 laps ago, Brady Myers was supreme on the run down at turn number 1. Jared Philsell was good, but he got boxed about the ears. He got a bit of a whack, and it was from a number of drivers in the TTR outfit. James Scott will get home 6th as well. Put some points down on Madison Down. There's a number of drivers there. Josh Anderson will drop a number of spots. He'll finish in 6th spot. We'll actually come home and with a 5-second post-race penalty of Madison Down. That's how far back the battling between Madison Down and Dylan Rudd will cost him. Rivera home in 9th, and Rick Kuznetsov comes home to pick up 10th spots. So that'll be a good points night for him.
Impressive showing by not only Trans-Tasman but Lob Esports too. These two, both teams really put on a show tonight, and to have all their cars up there, was 5 Trans-Tasman cars there and 3 Lob Esports cars up there. That's pretty impressive for them to hold on to those 8 positions. So and what a battle we saw throughout the night. Like just that really had a little bit of everything, and certainly Phillip Island did not disappoint one bit.
Have a look at Robbie Gibbs back there in 13th spot. We might get an opportunity to have a look at post-race points as well. From Adam Briggs, Richard Hamstead, Kurt Stenberg, Brent Hobson home. He'll be happy with that one in 17th. Had to get the job done, get the elbows out. Did so, and race benefited. Blake Warboys from Jordan Ross and Bo Albert with that undercut strategy went quite early. Still manages to get home in 20th, which was an improvement from where he was sitting prior to that pit stop. And outside the top 20, Wayne Burke from Damien Johnson, Matty Bowler, Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble, Jake O'Reilly with that battle on the last lap, and Thomas Freeman runs out of fuel just prior to the line. Zach Rattray White from Forza Nabi recovered well back to 29th after falling to 40th with that incident and running wide on the restart. Brian Borg outside the 30.
See what, these teams are lucky they don't have to provide a fuel sample at the end of these races, aren't they? Like, we see it week in, week out, where a lot of these teams really get it to the last lap or the last corner. So, really good run there.
And getting an update, Lockie, there might be some updates coming from race control.
Yeah, we're hearing that there will be some penalties coming that will change the podium. So we saw some contact at Miller Corner in particular. Let's go back and have a look at a couple of incidents. So this is on the last lap. So this is a little bit further back in the pack involving Rick Kuznetsov and Marcello Rivera. Now, after we've watched this replay, we've got some breaking news that we'll bring to you in a moment. So that was side by side. So that was literally a photo finish across the line. But we are hearing that Jake Burton has a 5-second penalty. So that contact that he made with Jared Filsell during that overtaking move for the lead at Miller Corner, stewards have deemed that Burton was at fault for that one. They've imposed a 5-second penalty. And according to my calculations, that's going to put him all the way back to, I think, 5th position, because obviously Josh Anderson's got the penalty as well. So, by my reckoning, it's now going to be Brady Myers, your race winner, ahead of Jared Filsell and Jake Maloney, is how the podium will look once you take that penalty into consideration. But Myers has a penalty as well.
Well, I was just going to say, the move and the contact between the two of those drivers was nearly mirrored a couple laps later. So if you penalise one, and you'll be saying this, Salmon, as well, you've got to penalise both of them. I don't think there's a world where we can only penalise one of them.
Yeah, look, when I called it when Jake's incident with Jared happened, I knew the stewards were going to look at that straight away. So, their reckoning would be that it's pretty much, it was a carbon copy. I guess that's how they're seeing it with that contact with Myers and Filsell. So, looks like Jared's going to be gifted the win.
So, and that also now elevates James Scott to the podium, incidentally. So, your podium with those penalties applied, it'll be Jared Filsell ahead of Jake Maloney, ahead of James Scott. That'll be the top 3. There you go. Now, let's have a look as well at the provisional championship points after 2 rounds. So, Robert Gibbs will retain his championship lead by 6 points over top 3. Dylan Rudd, 3rd ahead of Rick Kuznetsov. Kurt Stenberg now up into the top 5. How about that? And then Jake Maloney moving up into 6th position by virtue of his podium finish tonight. Matthew Bowler, Blake Warboys, Brenton Hobson, and Andrew Gilliam rounding out the top 10 in the standings after the first 2 rounds. But we now believe that we do actually have our podium with those penalties applied. So let's start with our 3rd place finish for the round for Lobs Esports Speed Cafe in car 088. It is James Scott, crossed the line in position number 6, but moves up onto the podium by virtue of the post-race penalties for 3 drivers ahead of him on the racetrack. James, how do you feel about finishing on the podium? Probably not something that you maybe expected necessarily, given what we've just heard.
Yeah, no, I don't really know what's going on. Obviously, I've seen a few penalties. I haven't really actually seen incidents, to be honest, so can't give a verdict on any of that. But, I'm sure there'll be some post-race appeals or whatever. But, for now, we'll take it.
Talk us through your night. Obviously, you were there or thereabouts in the lead pack right through the evening, but probably didn't quite seem to have the pace to challenge for the very front of the field.
Yeah, I think that would sum it up. I think if I was able to, sort of get to the lead, I would have been okay. I just, with the setup that we ran, I was pretty hard to follow. And sort of, wore the front tire down and had a lack of speed. So, but yeah, probably just didn't have the overall pace, I guess. But Phillip Island's always been one of these tracks for me where I've sort of been a bit up and down. So, to come away with a podium at a track where it's a bit 50-50, it's pretty good.
How much of a relief is it to get some points into the bank after your, non-scoring result at the opening round?
Yeah, obviously points are good. I think it's a 12-round season this season, so a few more rounds to try and claw them back. It's going to be a long way to do so, but just take it around as we go, and we'll see where we end up. But yeah, it's a long way back after no points in the first round.
Mate, in terms of things, I mean, I actually spoke to Madison earlier in the week, and he said that you reached out after round number 1. I mean, it's good hard racing. That's what you guys want to go out with here. And between you guys and the TTR, there is that rivalry. You race each other hard, but at the same time, cross the line maybe. You both made mistakes back at Sebring. It was just so good to just see you go out here, go door to door, and just be like, this is racing. This is good hard V8 supercar racing. It's hearing that from your closest rival. It's good to hear the relationship.
Sure, I've raced against Madison for years now, and we've always had really good battles. Obviously, we fight hard on the track, but I think, as I said to him, I can't think of another time where we've come together like that. So to go that long and not really come together and race as hard as we do always on the track, it sort of speaks volumes for how we go about it. And yeah, TTR as well. They're always good to race against, always a challenge. But yeah, no, it's good rivalry, but no hard feelings or anything like that.
And finally, mate, the floor is all yours to thank the sponsors that make it possible for you guys, particularly with that new partnership coming through this year.
Yeah, no, awesome to be in Lobs this year. The team's going along really well, so we probably lacked a bit of car speed tonight, but I'm sure we'll tune it up for the next round at Red Bull Ring. And yeah, obviously all the guys, Jared, Brody, Shane, Anton, all the guys for jumping in, working on the setup, helping out spotting and with the strategy tonight. It's a big help for all of us. You guys for the broadcast, the series admin and the race control. I'm sure they're going to have a pretty late night, but I don't envy their job.
Thanks very much.
Sorry, just before we go, just our sponsors as well, Speed Cafe and Ryko as well. Couldn't do without them.
Good job, James. Thank you, mate. Congratulations. Great to see you back on the podium. Coming home in second place tonight and ending up as the highest place of the Trans-Tasman racing drivers. Congratulations, Jake Maloney, ninth on the grid to second place, Jake, and entrenching yourself well inside the top 10 in the series standings. Talk us through your evening.
Yeah, no, it was a good race. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I played the strategy and speed really well, and we had a good car. Not sure I deserve to be on the podium. I think there's been some pretty average decision making to go on for that to happen, but look, good points today, and can't ask for much more.
Sort of able to sneak up a bit on it today. How did the race pan out from your perspective?
Yeah, I ended up in a really good spot after that first safety car where I had no real pressure from behind and was just able to sit and save fuel and save tyres. So saved them for about 20 laps and then was able to start making some moves, and I had a good fuel undercut on a few people as well, so was able to have a good pit stop.
In terms of things, mate, it's always tough when you come to the island. It's so important around here. This is one of those key racetracks, and Sam bangs on and bangs on and bangs on about how important it is to the culture of sim racing. This racetrack. How important is this result here to you tonight?
Yeah, it's good. It backs up another second place here. Had one last year. Yeah, it's a great track and a lot of fun to race, and I think it's one of TTR's strongest tracks, as showed by the 1-2 tonight.
Mate, finally, floor is all yours to thank everyone that makes it possible for yourself and Trans-Tasman Racing.
Big thanks to all the team. Car was awesome this week, and yeah, thanks to VRS and everyone in the team.
Good job there. He's our runner-up tonight, Jake Maloney. And that brings us to our round winner for round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational A Series. Qualified on pole position, ended up in first position overall at the finish, but it was far from a straightforward route to get there. But Jared Filsell, congratulations, a great result after the disappointment of the opening round. How was it from your perspective tonight?
Yeah, quite difficult to be honest. Not my favourite track in the world, so it's a hard slog tonight. I'm definitely feeling it right now. Obviously not the ideal way to win it. Not P1 on the road, so yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. The stewards make their calls. Fortunately, I'm on the right end of one, unlike last year, so it's good to be on that side from my point of view. But no, it was a pretty cool race. We were just chilling out, saving fuel there. It's just really hard to lead the pack and keep your tyres underneath. I was struggling quite a bit towards the end there.
Yeah, I mean, how important was the time management tonight with that early safety car? Obviously, that meant you had to then go a long way in both of, the second and third stints of the race. So how much of a struggle was it to keep the tyres underneath you?
Yeah, very. I didn't test a great deal for long run stuff. I probably didn't do more than 15 laps in a row, so going into that far was almost a bit of an unknown, to be honest. It seems like everyone was hurting very similar in the first stint, but yeah, it seemed like whoever was out front pushing the air and pushing the pace just burnt their stuff up quite quickly. It's very easy to follow around here and save your tyre and fuel, as you probably saw with Jake and I.
One more question from me before I throw it to Sandman. Obviously, there were those two overtaking manoeuvres with a bit of contact heading into Miller Corner towards the end of the race. First of all, with Jake Burton and then with Brady Myers. How were those moves from your perspective, and do you feel that the penalties for those drivers were justified?
Brady's was definitely late. I couldn't exactly turn out of it, and we still made contact. Jake's one was a bit of a weird one. Just seemed like he understeered mid-corner into me and pushed me off a little bit. But I mean, yeah, that's hard racing. But the stewards, I guess they're making the call as to what rules we race under. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it is what it is. Yeah, don't like to win races. Not finishing first, put it that way.
Regardless of the results, mate, it was a good battle between you and the TTR gang. Did the race, obviously, everyone wants a checkered flag at the end of the night, and you've got that, but were you a little bit worried with that early safety car, or were you sort of licking your lips when you knew you could sort of tick that box as far as one of the regulation pit stops?
It definitely threw our strategy out, that's for sure. It made it very difficult to the end, given the unknown and uncertainty of how far we could go on the tyres before they completely blew up. Yeah, they were anything past lap 20, and yeah, she wasn't a good sight, that's for sure. Yeah, struggle street.
And now all eyes go to the next round for the Red Bull Ring. What are your thoughts leading up to that? Excited about that race? Do you like that racetrack?
Yeah, got the win there last year, 1-2 with James. So hopefully we can do a repeat there. Obviously we've got a good setup, good base to go off of. Car hasn't changed at all, so I'm sure we can make minor improvements, but it's not going to be any wholesale adjustments, I don't think. But no, great track. Similar to this in terms of draft, so it'll be action packed again, no doubt. I think there was 15 cars in 3 seconds there last year or something. So it's, you just got to be at the pointy and you can't be stuck in the middle. So yeah, track position will be king there.
Oh, before we let you run away and celebrate with the team, is there anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, obviously the guys at Lobs Esports, James and Dylan put some crazy hours in this week and last week. Unfortunately, I was off with a foot injury, so my preparation was hampered a little bit. So thanks to those guys. Also Shane for getting up at God knows what hour it is over there for him. Shows his commitment to the cause, jumping on for the boys. As well as Brody. Obviously the news has come out that he's returning back. He managed to find some time for us and jump on the sim a little bit this week. So it's always appreciated to get Bush's knowledge and skill set to help us out. And also Speed Cafe as well for jumping on board. Nice to get the first official win in the series, not counting the qualifying series, as well as Rako performance as well. It's great to have them on board as well.
Well, congratulations, mate. Boys, if anything, it's going to be a cracker of a season. We've already seen 2 amazing races for the opening round.
It makes my job when I'm going to go looking for stories very, very easy. But I'm nervous about what I'm going to write about this time around, because that was dramatic, it was emphatic, but it was also down and out on the racetrack. And I think I'll say the same thing that I said after the last round to quite a few people. There's a case for a penalty in each and every one of those incidents, but there's also a case not for them. And the stewards, what they're debating, and to all the fans that are watching along at home, I'll try and do some breakdowns of all those incidents for you guys so that you can get a point of it. What are the stewards trying to do? They've got a process and they've got a procedure that they run through everything, and they are trying to mimic, and they're trying to get close to what they do out in real life. They've taken on some direction from some real world bits and pieces. Thomas Rendell was added to the stewards room on a request of the driver basis, right? So there's a bunch of things that they're trying to do to try and improve this series and improve this level. Along the way, you're gonna make some errors. Is tonight an error? I'm happy with these being penalties. I'm also disappointed that they're penalties. As a race fan, I'm disappointed. As somebody who does race controlling, 5 seconds, it feels a bit, it's so tight. There's nothing in these. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I called it live, and I thought, especially, we talked about that first incident, and I kind of figured that between Burton and that may have been a penalty. As it turned out, they both were, and I guess it follows up on what you said. I guess you have to be consistent, and they penalised Burton for that one, so they had to do the same for the second incident. So, at the end of the day, they're being consistent. I never want to be in that position. You can't pay me enough to be a steward. I'll stay in the commentary box, thanks. As much as I say I'm jealous and want to be on the racetrack, I ain't going to the steward's office. Forget it. So it's the hardest gig in motorsport. You can't do anything right, and you do everything wrong, and you're always upsetting someone. But they do the best of their ability, and like we said, they were consistent about that corner.
It's a bit like rugby league or AFL, isn't it? When the referees and the umpires aren't being talked about, that's when you know that they're doing a good job, and I think it's a similar story for the stewards as well. I think probably the positive to come out of it is that there will be plenty of discussion and plenty of debate, and that's going to keep the series in the headlines ahead of the next round at Red Bull Ring, just as it did between the opening round at Sebring and this one at Phillip Island tonight.
Oh, boys, there's lots of drama. There's lots of stories left to come. We are 2 rounds in. Those first 2 rounds, those 2 extra rounds that were added, maybe you were thinking they were added to the tail end. Maybe you think they're added to the front end. What we've got left for you is 10 rounds of racing action, 3 rounds of an endurance championship. Red Bull Ring on May the 1st is the next time we're going to go racing for the Logitech Pro Invitational. Are you going to be there? I don't think there's a case where you could miss out. We'll see you next time out on May the 1st for the next racing action for the Logitech Pro Invitational.
Baba, what are we playing?
Ya lo sabéis, it's Halo Day.
Yeah, one sec.
He's playing football, isn't he?
Jajo, you know he fancies himself footballer. Oh, whatever. Look, your love makes me strong, but your hate makes me invincible. All right, let's get on Halo then. Let's go.
Ready.
You got my back this time, right?
Chill, chaval. I won't ghost you this time.
I'm going hallway.
I got right. Uno fuera.
Up, another one down. Lock in. Next kill wins it.
Where is he? No lo veo.
Nisha, do you hear that?
Quick on him, top left.
Bet. I'll push it. He's one shot.
Game over.
Got him.
Well played.
Same time tomorrow then.
We'll see.
Bye bye.
Ciao, nos vemos.